All right, welcome in. It's the Friday night live stream, going a little bit later than usual, going kind of back to the old time, which was 10:30. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to start a little bit late. That's what happens when I get like 3 hours of sleep the night before and then have to take a nap before I do the live stream. I have to take the nap because otherwise my brain won't work good and good words won't come out. So that's the reason. That's why we're starting a bit later today. Hope everybody's having a great Friday night. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. And what are we going to talk about? And as usual, let me know that the audio and everything is working fine. Anybody who's watching out there right now? What are we going to talk about? So, all right, all this lunacy behind sex changes for kids and everything that we hear from the media when they tell us about, the American Medical Association and the Endocrine Society and the American Academy of Pediatrics, and they're all behind all this stuff. This is all coming from let's see, Air Rifles. It says, hello, thumbs up, everything's looking good. Thank you very much, sir. But everything that every time we hear from the experts about all this stuff, what they're referring to is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. That's what they all rely on. Okay, WPATH. That's what they all rely on for their evidence that all this stuff is real and is great. And of course, 5-year-olds can be born in the wrong body. This is what they're relying on. And Michael Schellenberger has done a big expose of this. He's gotten a bunch of internal communications from WPATH. And again, remember Jon Stewart? A couple of years ago, I made a video on it, actually, which you can check out if you subscribe to the channel. You can find it pretty easily. It's got Jon Stewart in the thumbnail. He did an interview with it was a Republican governor. I can't remember exactly which one, but it was on his show on Apple, The Problem with Jon Stewart or whatever. And he was discussing this governor's decision to basically restrict all of this stuff for kids. So, the hormones, the puberty blockers, certainly surgeries. And he started making an appeal to authority on, the American Medical Association and the Endocrine Society and the American Academy of Pediatrics. American Academy of Pediatrics are all for this. Well, they're the experts. Okay, so, they're getting all of their authority or their evidence from this WPATH, this World Professional Association of Transgender Health. And we're going to look at these internal documents. There's a thread from Michael Schellenberger. He wrote a big article about it on his Substack, I think, which we're not going to go through in this. We're just going to go through this thread that he's put up. And it shows the internal communications of this WPATH. And it turns out they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. In fact, it looks very much like they're just making it all up as they go along. Insanely reckless malpractice, obvious malpractice. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a trans activist called, I end up doing so much stuff on the trans stuff, but it's really in the news right now. And it's really actually is an important issue because it's invaded into the world of children. So it has to be talked about. But anyway, trans activist calls cops on J.K. Rowling for hate crime of calling him a man. This is in England. We're going to take a look at this. We've got a little video on that too of this person who is, to my mind, and you're probably not going to be surprised by me thinking this, but is totally unreasonable. Exclusive Google employees hijack International Women's Day event to bash Israel. So we'll talk about that. I don't know why they'd be surprised. This is the sort of thing they nurture at Google. This is the new woke thing, right? So every woke thing of the moment is the most important thing in the world, and they're going to scream and cry about it. Then we're going to go and take a look at a bunch of stuff I've curated on Twitter over the course of the week. And if things get too dark, like, for instance, when you see this, you might think to yourself, oh, this could get depressing. When you see this video, we have a thing here that we started. It's a custom here where we have a palette cleanser. It's called the Puppy Palette Cleanser. So we will go and look at some adorable puppies to make ourselves feel a little bit better and to wash away all of that horribleness. And the best thing about these videos is that Justin Trudeau never breaks into the shot and tries to give the puppies sex change surgeries or hormone blockers or cross-sex hormones. That's my favorite thing. And it's also the joke that I tell every single time and will forever. And after we've gotten through all of that, I've got some extra stuff that I've curated from Twitter if we still feel like doing it at the end of this thing. And I don't know how long it's going to go. Let's see. Invin says, audio is great. Thank you very much, sir. Hope you're having a good evening. All right. So let's get to our first lunacy here. All right. So Michael Schellenberger, the WPATH files. Now, the word expert has taken quite a beating the last few years, hasn't it? Doesn't feel like it means the same thing it used to. And these appeals to authority, to the experts, are not nearly as convincing as they used to be. This is one of the reasons why. Because institutionally, there has been a bias that has crept in, a far left, to my mind, extremist bias that has crept into everything and taken over institutions. So let's take a look. Advocates of gender-affirming care say it's evidence-based. But now, newly released internal files from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH, prove that the practice of transgender medicine is neither scientific nor medical. Well, that you didn't really need to actually even be an expert to figure that out. I mean, it's also incoherent. I mean, just right from the start. So is it that everything's a social construct, including gender? So is it that, or is it that it's set? Because apparently at the same time, in the duality of all this far left Marxist lunacy, a 5-year-old can be born in the wrong body and absolutely know for sure. So which is it? Social construct or is it fixed? Well, I guess it just depends on the whim, on what's most convenient for the moment. But let's hear Schellenberger talking about it himself here. Let's go through this video.
A year and a half ago, a video of gender medicine experts went viral. On it, they talked about how hard it is to talk with teenagers about whether they might want to have kids one day.
It's always a good theory that you talk about fertility preservation with a 14-year-old, but I know I'm talking to a blank wall. And the same would happen for a cisgender kid, right? They'd be like, ew, kids, babies, gross. Or the usual stock answer is, I'm going to adopt. I'm just going to adopt. And then you ask them, well, what does that involve? Like, how much does it cost? Oh, I thought you just like went to the orphanage and they gave you a baby. No, it's not quite like that.
That's Dr. Daniel Metzger, and he's talking about the challenge of getting what's known as informed consent from children and adolescents to undergo procedures that will result in their sterilization. Over the last several years, doctors, medical experts, and the media have all said that the best way to help adolescents in distress about their gender is to give them puberty blockers, hormones, and surgeries to align their physical sex with their gender identity. The alternative to doing so, they said, was suicide. But now a new study released last month found no scientific evidence to support the claim that drugs and surgeries prevent suicide among people with gender dysphoria. Now, I agree we should be concerned about children and adolescents experiencing distress about their biological sex. But now there's even more evidence to warrant greater caution in how we treat them. Whistleblowers have given me the internal files from the main gender medicine organization, which is known as WPATH and stands for the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. The WPATH files show surgeons, therapists, and activists discussing internally how to treat people with gender distress. What they show is that what's happening is neither good science nor good medicine. There's a discussion, for example, about the blocking of puberty of a 10-year-old girl. There's a discussion of doing genital surgery on people with schizophrenia and a dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personality disorder. At the core of medical ethics is getting this informed consent from the people receiving the medicine or from their caregivers. The WPATH files show overwhelming evidence that the professionals within WPATH know they're not getting consent from children, adolescents, and vulnerable adults, or from their caregivers. They know that so-called gender-affirming care can result in lifelong complications and sterility. Their patients do not understand the implications. Many patients are unaware that they will lose sexual function, including the ability to experience orgasm. After I received these files, my colleagues and I tried to report on them as we would journalists. We quickly became overwhelmed by the size and complexity of the project. And so we decided to write a full report about the files for Environmental Progress, our nonprofit research institute, in order to put the WPATH files in the context of the best available science about gender distress. The result is a new report, WPATH Files, Pseudoscientific Surgical and Hormonal Experiment.
So what we're going to find in this is that there's no guardrails anymore, right? Everything is just what feels left wing, what feels, I would use the word fashionable at this point. This feels like it's left. It feels progressive. We've been told that anybody who's opposed to it is one of those far right people, one of those scary far right people. Any person with common sense is scary and far right. The real question is, well, it's not even a question. It's obvious that obviously American Medical Association, Endocrine Society, American Academy of Pediatrics, there's no guardrails. These are not, these can no longer be considered legitimate institutions. And let's see why.
I think the thing you have to remember about kids is that we're often explaining these sorts of things to people who haven't even had biology in high school yet, and I know I've heard others in this kind of a setting say, well,
people who haven't even had biology in high school yet, like, just imagine that. Okay,
we think adults are like really slick biologically, but in fact, lots of people have very little medical understanding of stuff like that. We just medical professionals and mental health professionals take for granted. But I don't know still what to do for the 14-year-olds. The parents have it on their minds, but the 14-year-olds, it's like talking with diabetic complications with a 14-year-old. They don't care. They're not going to die. They're going to live forever, right? So I think when we're doing informed consent, I know that that's still a big lacuna. I think the thing you have to remember.
So informed consent, right? I mean, from these conversations, it's clear. I mean, it obviously there's any sensible person understands that a child cannot give informed consent to these life-changing things that are going to affect their body in ways that they can't possibly understand. How could you before you've even gone through puberty? If we're talking about puberty blockers, you haven't had a chance to live in your fully developed body yet. How could you possibly not? Obviously, informed consent is impossible, and they're talking about it themselves. These are internal discussions from WPATH. These are the people that are used to justify doing these things. These medical experiments is what I consider them to be, medical experiments on children. Here, 14 years old trans female wants gender-affirming surgery. 14 years old. Hello, my dear colleagues. I would like to know how to proceed on a 14 years old trans female who started transition since she was 4. She wants to have gender-affirming surgery, male to female, and her parents are supporting her decision. But I have never done this on such a young patient. What are your recommendations for this case? Just making it up. I mean, obviously, there's not even any kind of strict formal rules around this. They're just making it up. It's a giant social experiment, obviously. How about this? Blockers for preteens, height potential. I have been hearing some conflicting information about the effects of puberty blockers on total height achievement. I've recently received questions from AFAB, 10-year-old patient, about whether blockers will stunt his growth if he starts them now, as his doc has approved. So doctors already approved this. I understand blockers can slow the rate of growth, But for those who start them at, say, age 10, before they have hit their growth spurt and remain on them for a total of 3 to 4 years, what happens afterwards if they opt to begin testosterone rather than resume the puberty consistent with, they don't know, they're just making it up as they go along. Make changing children's lives forever in irreversible ways. They're just making it, and they're just making it up as they go along. These are the experts. This is the authority that Jon Stewart was appealing to on his show when he was talking to that Republican, I believe it was a governor, about a law restricting this to children. So-called euphemism, gender affirming care. This is the authority that they're appealing to. Okay, these people don't know what they're doing. This is just a giant experiment. I'm curious as to how medical docs approach important issues such as stature when starting blockers, especially in earlier stages of development. Are there ways to maximize growth potential for young patients? They're making it up as they go along. It's a complex question. Blockers, by suppressing puberty, keep growth plates open longer, so younger teens have a potential to grow longer. However, their growth velocity is typical at prepubertal velocity without typical growth spurt. I mean, it's hard to understand how people could be involved in all of this and just keep going. Like, they know that they don't really know what they're doing. There's not even any real rules around it. They don't understand the processes. It's hard to imagine how an adult with a conscience could just keep going with this. But in any case, here's another internal communication from WPATH. You bring up some very interesting issues. At what age should transition begin, and what are the problems associated with possible detransition if a person who is so young? I usually recommend that the person be living as the other sex for 6 to 12 months, since they may find they are uncomfortable with the sex they feel is appropriate. Also, they need at least one supportive parent involved. It is very difficult to ask that they wait until age 16, because by then they will be dealing with menstrual periods and complete breast development. Waiting appears to increase the rate of suicide attempts. Well, that's actually not true. Suicide attempts are increased after transition. After much experience as a pediatric endocrinologist, I would not rule out treating if the person is living as a male and is convinced that transition would be correct for him. Again, there doesn't seem to be any hard and fast rules for any of this. How about this? Many young patients experiencing gender distress do not appear to understand that they may suffer serious consequences from long-term hormone use and genital surgery. Hi, all. I've been thinking more about what it looks like to obtain fully informed consent. This is really the crucial issue around all of this. Informed consent. You're talking about children that you don't allow to buy cigarettes or to drink alcohol or to drive a car. I've been thinking more about what it looks like to obtain fully informed consent. I was curious to what degree, if any, other mental health providers discuss actual rates of surgical complications with clients when providing assessments for surgical care, i.e., pain or loss of sensation, need for additional surgeries, necrotic tissue, infection, hematosis, strictures, implant-related complications, etc. Geez, sounds like maybe you shouldn't even be doing it at all, right? I'm also curious if others think it is safe to assume that surgeons disclose actual complication rates versus informing clients that these complications may happen. I realize research on some of these complications may be limited for various reasons. Yeah, like since this is a fad that started like 15 minutes ago, like that, like since none of you have any idea like what the fuck you're doing, like this is just a giant experiment. How is it even possible that this could happen to any child when there are these questions around consent? How is it even possible? You would think there would be sane people. To me, you'd have to be a sociopath to just go along with this. We don't really know what we're doing, but we're going to keep doing it to kids. And, well, if it destroys their life, well, so be it, I guess. What else we got here? Okay, how about this one?
I just wanted to piggyback on all of the importance that comes up with the informed consent issues. I often see people who, because there's such a backlog of therapists to do some of the mental health therapeutic support, I often see people who have already engaged in some sort of, and this is again with youth, who've already engaged in some sort of medical intervention. And so one of the things I do is I just I'm sitting with the youth and their parents and I say, oh, well, so tell me more about what you know about that medical intervention. And kind of like what Dan was saying, children and young adolescents, we wouldn't really expect them. It's kind of it's out of their developmental range sometimes to understand the extent.
Out of their developmental range sometimes to understand. Okay.
To which some of these medical interventions are impacting them.
We do it. We try to talk about it, but most of the kids are nowhere in any kind of a brain space to really, really, really talk about it in a serious way. That's always bothered me, but we still want the kids to be happier in the moment, right?
And I appreciate.
I gotta hear that last part again. Hold on 1 second. And oh, looks like I got a super chat. Very nice, Air Rifles. Thank you very much. Says everything that seems it's not coming up on the chat on the screen for some reason. I don't know why that is. Seems to be some kind of thing with YouTube here. Let me see if I can click on it and bring it up. Hold on. That doesn't seem to want to work. Everything that is happening in the world today seems insanely reckless. I could not agree more. How the hell did we evolve into this? How the hell did we evolve into this? I have no idea. Well, no, I do know. I do know. It's the demoralization. And I don't mean like depression. I mean losing our morals brought on. Yuri Bezmenov talked about this. To me, it seems pretty clear that there's been a long-running psyop, one that after the fall of the Soviet Union just took on a life of its own. Because once you infect a society with a mind virus, well, it takes on a life of its own and it kind of mutates. We went from class Marxism to race and identity Well, it went from class Marxism to race Marxism to now just identity Marxism. And it's happened slowly. It grew like a cancer in the universities over decades. And it spread to more and more minds. And those minds have spread it more and more. And a lot of those people have gone into positions in journalism. A lot of them are running institutions now. So in that way, you can have what is actually a fringe minority really punch above its weight because it just takes over institutions and wears them like a skin suit. Because all of this woke shit is not actually popular, right? We know that. Normal people don't actually like it. Normal people don't want sex changes for kids. Polling shows that. The way we get into this spot is that the institutions themselves get taken over. You know, journalism gets taken over. You know, you have people that are infected by the woke mind virus in university, and then they go to the institutions. Now, working your way up from the mailroom is over, right? You know, getting a job at the Washington Post and working your way up from the mailroom, that's over now. You're going from like an expensive university straight into it. So those are the only people that get a shot. And they get power, and everybody around them agrees with them. And if they don't, well, they get shamed. And they're intimidated into pretending they believe, and that's how it happens. That's how you end up with Jon Stewart on his show on Apple a couple of years ago, appealing to the authority of WPATH as experts to prove that actually sex changes for kids are great. Anyway, excellent. Thanks for that. And Air Rifles. And yeah, excellent chat there. But let's go back to what was this guy saying?
extent to which some of these medical interventions are impacting them.
We do it. We try to talk about it, but most of the kids are nowhere in any kind of a brain space to really, really, really talk about it in a serious way. That's always bothered me, but you know, we still.
It's always bothered him. You'd think it would bother him. You would think it would bother him when they're walking kids into these irreversible, life-changing sterilizations, for example.
I want the kids to be happier in the moment, right?
And I appreciate that much less with a 9, 10, or 11-year-old who's starting puberty suppression. And like Ren said, if they continue on, then and I mean it's like developmentally not in their space to be able to have to think about that, and it shouldn't be, right? And so I think it is a real growing edge in our field to kind of figure out how we can approach that. I'm definitely a little stumped on it.
I mean, let's hear that one more time because it's important.
Ten or 11-year-old who's
happier in the moment, right?
And I appreciate that much less with a 9, 10, or 11-year-old who's starting puberty suppression. And like Ren said, if they continue on, then and I mean it's like developmentally not in their space to be able to have to think about that, and it shouldn't be, right? And so I think it is a real growing edge in our field to kind of figure out how we can approach that.
So they know that these children cannot possibly give informed consent. I mean, they're just saying it right here. So why are all these? Why are the American Medical Association, Endocrine Society, the American Academy of Pediatrics, why are they relying on them as an authority? How does this happen? It happens when the truth doesn't matter anymore. That's how it happens. Let's go back to the chat. See, Air Rifles says, how can that not be child abuse? To my mind, it's obvious child abuse. I don't see any other option there. Right? What is the other option exactly? These people are admitting that they're making it up as they go along. Let's see. Invin says it's not informed consent if the patient is incapable of understanding the information. Exactly. Yes, you see, like normal people understand that you don't need to be an endocrinologist. You don't need to be a pediatrician. Like you don't need to be an expert to know that. Anybody can know that, right? So just we've reached a point where literally, just the layman understands the issue better, or at least has better no, does actually understands the issue better than these so-called experts, and certainly has a much more moral foundation for questioning it than the experts have for defending it. I don't see how that could be any more clear. I mean, we're seeing it here. Does this even surprise anybody, by the way? I mean, just observing the world, observing everything that's happened over the last few years. Pardon me. Observing everything that's happened over the last few years. There was a particular medical issue that happened globally, right? None of this, it should be surprising. It's shocking, but it shouldn't be surprising. The Invin says, strong men make good times make weak men make bad times make strong men. Repeat. Yeah. So we're in that weak men making bad times part of the cycle right now, aren't we? Sierra Air Rifle says they seem to be closing down free thought in universities. They used to be the bastion of free thought. Yeah, not anymore. They need to be completely reformed. You know, in all Western countries, they should get not a single tax dollar at this point. These are just indoctrination factories at this point. That's it. I mean, what is the ratio, especially in like Ivy Leagues, in the expensive universities, the ratio of conservative to left wing? I'm not going to say liberal because there's not really many liberals left. Maybe like Brett Weinstein. The ratio is something like 200 to 1. And the one guy is like terrified of saying anything. I think just hides, probably goes to work every day in like a disguise, fake mustache on. Yeah, it's really is unbelievably shocking and terrifying what's going on. One thing that's frustrating me right now is that the comments aren't showing up on the stream. They're still in the chat, I guess, if you're, on a laptop or a computer. But that kind of sucks. All right. Let's see. What does this one say? In a developmentally delayed 13-year-old adolescent currently on pubertal suppression. If this is, I always say this all the time, this is like alternate universe kind of stuff here. Like that this is real. They're talking about a developmentally delayed 13-year-old on pubertal suppression. Okay. That may not reach the emotional and cognitive development bar set by SOC within the typical adolescent time frame, if at all. What is the ethical approach to care? What is the ethical approach to care? So you've already got a developmentally delayed 13-year-old on puberty blockers. And now you're asking, what is the ethical approach to care? You've got a 13-year-old that may not reach the emotional and cognitive developmental bar necessary. Now is the time to ask, what's the ethical approach? I mean, this is just moral blindness. I mean, I guess the person in this communication is maybe starting to go, well, hold on a second. Maybe somewhere there's a couple of neurons in the back of their head that's going, uh-oh, maybe I'm doing something evil. Let's see. So the standard would be that the adolescent demonstrates emotional and cognitive maturity required to provide informed consent for the treatment. Again, wouldn't a sane person, a person with a conscience, or just your average human being just wonder if a 13-year-old can give informed consent to things that they clearly don't understand. If you've never been through puberty, if you don't have an adult body, you don't know what that's like. Clearly. Like, you kind of have to go through it to know what it's like, right? So right from the start, the whole thing is fucking insane. All right. Oh, this one is insane. Okay, let's watch this. We're not going to watch too many more because it's, we've already been on this for a while. We're 38 minutes in.
And I think now that I follow a lot of kids into their mid-20s, I'm always like, oh, the dog isn't doing it for you, right? Yeah, they're like, no, I just found this, wonderful partner, and now we're kids and da-da-da. So I think, it doesn't surprise me. And I think now that I follow a lot of kids into their mid-20s, I'm always like, oh, the dog isn't doing it for you, right? Yeah, they're like, no, I just found this, wonderful partner, and now we're kids and da-da-da. So I think, it doesn't surprise me. And I think now.
Jesus. Dog's not doing it for you. So following them into their mid-20s, and they're saying that, well, actually, I kind of want to have kids. I found this partner. I want to have kids now. And the response is, well, the dog's not doing it for you. So that's somebody who's now in their 20s that this person sterilized as a child, going on the assumption that they could give informed consent as a child. You'd think that if this were even a remotely decent person, they would be screaming from the rooftops about this. It wouldn't need to be, leaked footage or anything like that. That they'd be on the rooftops saying, no, this is wrong. I've seen it. This is wrong. This is what's happening. I find it baffling. A lot of people say eventually people who do this to children are going to be put in prison, perhaps. It's interesting, isn't it? All right, I think we're gonna move on because it's so dark, but we've really gotten the point, haven't we? This is not science. This is not based on science. This is based on politics. This is based on, literally just what feels progressive or left-wing, what's fashionable, what that fringe minority of far-left extremists that are controlling these institutions, what they just feel is fashionable, what makes them feel good. All right. So, after that, it's depressing. We're going to have to go to the puppies. It's a palate cleanser, puppy palate cleanser. Look at this little guy. Look, he's hungry. Look at that. He's bringing his bowl. He's hungry. He knows what to do. He knows what's up. Go on, give me some food. That's what he's saying. My favorite part of this is that Justin Trudeau didn't burst into this shot and fill up that bowl with like puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones for the puppy, because he'd like to do that. All right. So I guess this is an extension of the last one. Hold on. Let's go back to the chat for a second. Invin says, when I was 13, I wanted to eat pizza and cake all day. Fortunately, an adult didn't allow me. Well, that is child abuse in my books. You should have called WPATH. They would have given you some pizza and cut off your dick. Not even joking about that. They will literally do it. They would have given you some ham and pineapple and estrogen pizza, a large. Anyway, this is kind of an extension of the last segment. Trans activist calls cops on J.K. Rowling for hate crime of calling him a man. Now, she's a great example of how you could never be left enough, because she's always been one of those, frankly, obnoxious liberals, right? But she actually is a liberal, is the thing. She's not a far leftist. She's your more kind of traditional liberal, and an obnoxious one, or she always has been. Pure Trump derangement syndrome. All the smug tweets and the superior tweets about how he's so stupid, and from these elitists, somehow they imagine themselves to have been more accomplished than Donald Trump, which seems obviously not real. Okay, look, Harry Potter, very popular series of books. Donald Trump has succeeded in real estate in a massive way. Best-selling author, right? Had a top-rated TV show. He has like 500 companies. This guy's got a talent stack. Like, that doesn't all happen by accident, right? That doesn't all happen because you're stupid. Not to mention, obviously, he became president of the United States. It's actually a pretty impressive resume. And again, that doesn't happen by accident. But in any case, I think that's more impressive than Harry Potter books, right? But in any case, she's always been a liberal, and she is one of the liberals that, as the left became more and more extreme and absurd and ridiculous, and more and more intent on killing things like satire and parody, she just kind of went along with it. That's what happened to all the old traditional liberals, right? They just kind of went along with it. Well, these are just silly kids or whatever, until they end up getting shoved out, but told butt out. You're a fascist. Sorry, you disagreed with one thing that we said. Now you're a fascist, right? So J.K. Rowling believes that there is a biological difference between men and women. That is enough to earn her the title of fascist, transphobe, all of that. And I probably should have pulled up some of her old tweets to show you how not extreme she actually is, right? So, but she's one of those people that kind of went along and essentially nurtured the lunatics, kind of trained her own executioners because they were not right wing, because they were not conservative or even, moderate, say. It's fashionable, right? With these, elitist liberals, it really is all about fashion, right? And they just weren't, it was so distasteful to them to just ever kind of say, well, maybe the conservatives have a point on this or that, possibly. So before she knew it, it turned out that she's new Hitler. And the left actually hates her, and they're not liberals. They're illiberal. And so now, let's see, trans activist calls cops on J.K. Rowling for hate crime of calling him a man. So what happened? Best-selling Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling refused to apologize or change her wording after a transgender activist called the police, so this is in the UK, for the hate crime of referring to the individual as a man. India Willoughby, a man who identifies as a woman, explained the situation during an interview with Byline News. Okay, so I've actually got this interview here, so let's take a look. So J.K. Rowling called this person a man, and this person is not happy about it. So let's
J.K. Rowling has definitely committed a crime. I'm legally a woman. She knows I'm a woman, and she calls me a man.
Legally a woman. She knows I'm a woman. See, this is that part where they want to be the ruler of your own conscience, right? They want to tell you that either you have to lie or you just have to believe. You have to take this article of faith. You have to accept it and believe it. At least pretend to believe it. You must. Why? Because otherwise I will be offended. Knows that I'm a woman. Knows that I'm a woman. Really? Can you really make that claim? I don't think the science is settled yet, frankly.
A crime. I'm legally a woman. She knows I'm a woman, and she calls me a man. It's a protected characteristic, and that is a breach of both the Equalities Act and the Gender Recognition Act. She's tweeted that out to 14 million followers. If you check out the accounts that have been responding to me on the back of that, her trigger, it's absolutely disgusting, putrid, some of the worst abuse I've ever seen on social media. And I know I'm at this.
Have you seen the tweets that J.K. Rowling gets from your fans? They're not very nice either. Let's see. India Willoughby. So here's a reader's note on Twitter. Claims misgendering is a hate crime because gender is a protected characteristic under the GRA and EA. However, the protections provided are against discrimination. However, the protections provided are against discrimination, not biology. The case of Maya Forstater confirmed people have a right to hold and express gender-critical views. So just lying, but hey, the whole world has to conform.
Center of it, I might be a little bit biased.
Well, what are you going to do about it?
What am I going to do about it? Well, I've been to the police and I've reported it as an issue. I contacted Northumbria Constabulary yesterday.
So you reported J.K. Rowling?
I have reported J.K. Rowling to the police.
The narcissism here. I mean, the narcissism, reporting somebody to the police because they have a different view of reality than you do. I mean, a correct view of reality.
For what she said, which I don't know if that's going to be treated as a hate crime, malicious communications, but it's a cut and dried offense as far as I'm concerned. And at the end of the day, it is a hate crime. Trans gender identity is a protected characteristic.
This is another thing that's just incredible. It's a hate crime. Hate. So disagreeing on reality is hate. So they've redefined hate. How is that hate? It's not hate. It doesn't have to be hate in any case. We're just saying, no, I mean, okay, I believe in biology. How is that hate? This is the trick, reframing everything as hate. You know, they call, I mean, modern leftists throw around the word genocide every 15 minutes. Apparently, they don't know what any of these words mean. They don't know what the word hate means, it would seem, in any case.
Just as race is, just as sexuality is. And the equivalent of what J.K. Rowling said, calling a trans person a man, deliberately knowing that that person is a woman, and I am a woman, regardless of what J.K. Rowling...
Okay, but you don't get to just say that. You don't get to just say that J.K. Rowling knows this. She clearly does not agree with you on this point. And framing that as hate is idiotic. I mean, it's an obvious tactic is the thing. It's a dishonest tactic. We keep saying that the left, the modern left, of which this is obviously a part, doesn't use words to communicate. They use words to manipulate. Everything is a manipulation, right? If you, look, I'm sorry, whoever you are, India Willoughby, I'm sorry, but your chromosomes tell a different story. That's not hate. That's just reality. Is 2 + 2 = 4 hate? I guess they would frame it that way, wouldn't they?
Says I've been through everything that's required of me. My birth certificate says female, my passport, all of my documents. I am legally recognized as a woman. And for J.K. Rowling to deliberately, and that is the key word, misgender me, knowing who I am, is grossly offensive. It is a hate crime, and it should be treated just as somebody calling a black person the N-word or an Asian person.
Well, distasteful things should also be legal because it is freedom of speech, but it is not the same thing at all. One is just what you're talking about is just a statement of fact and then trying to redefine that as hate, which is an obvious trick. It's an obvious scam, right? To try and enforce your will, to have power over other people, to force them to pretend to believe things and to say things that they don't believe, which I find really gross. So Rowling clapped back with a series of tweets, apparently. Surprisingly, for such an eminent legal authority, he appears to have forgotten that the Forstater ruling established that gender-critical views can be protected in law as a philosophical belief. No law compels anyone to pretend to believe that India is a woman. And then also added, quote, some time ago, lawyers advised me that not only did I have a clearly winnable case against India Willoughby for defamation, but that India's obsessive targeting of me over the past few years may meet the legal threshold for harassment. I ignored this advice because I couldn't be bothered giving India the publicity he so clearly craves. Nevertheless, we must all do our bit to combat hate. So India will be glad to know I've taken notes of his homophobia, racism, and humane stance on immigration. So I think there's a bit more to this story here. Nor have I forgotten India's shocking transphobia. It appears to have slipped what passes for India's mind that he's previously called a fellow trans woman a man on this very site. And apparently she shared a bunch of screenshots to prove her point. Surprisingly, for such an eminent legal authority, he appears to have forgotten that the forced data ruling, blah, 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 we got that. So you have somebody with a bunch of what would be considered by their own rules controversial ideas, right? But has this, I mean, what else do you call it other than just incredible narcissism? I mean, you want to rule people's own conscience. I find it astonishing. It's just, I guess, somebody who's found a way to gain some power over people and is going to just relentlessly pursue that. Let's see. Air Rifle says they won't be put in prison. There is obviously legislation for this disgusting practice. Perhaps those that made the legislation should be put in prison. The crimes are numerous. Anyway, so we're talking there about the first segment that we did, the WPATH files, about how the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, which is the authority that, American Medical Association, Endocrine Society, American Academy of Pediatrics, and any other person calling himself an expert appeals to. And we went through this big segment, if you joined in since, showing that these people are making it up as they go along. None of this is based on science or even a concern for well-being. Saying that they won't be put in prison, I agree, to be honest, because there's too many of them. Like, too many people are complicit in this, from medical institutions all the way up to media to politicians. They're all complicit in it. And so it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is it's going to go real quiet suddenly. And it's just not going to be in the news anymore. Nobody will talk about it outside of independent channels like my own. But it'll go very quiet. Where Europe, particularly Northern Europe, was ahead on this stuff. They started doing it, I think, about a decade earlier, maybe even earlier than that, and have since really pulled back, put the brakes on this and pulled back. And they realized, after watching what happened to these people, to these kids as they're growing up, they realized this is just harm. This is just hurting them. This is not actually preventing suicides, mass suicides, or anything like that. No. This is just hurting them. And there's an enormous amount of regret. We've talked about the Tavistock Clinic in the UK being sued by, 1,000 families who they gave, to whose children they gave puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and stuff. So they're pulling back in Europe, and that's going to happen here. And when it does, it's going to go real quiet. Real quiet. Like in Canada, there's going to be a lot of people in the media. The liberal politicians, NDP politicians, they're not going to want to talk about it suddenly. There's not going to be a topic of interest for the CBC any longer. Once the obvious becomes obvious, right? Even to them. All right. What do we got next? So apparently Google employees hijack International Women's Day event to bash Israel. So this is what these tech companies wanted. This is what they nurtured within their own companies. You know, they nurtured current thing. Whatever the latest left-wing fashion was, far left extremist fashion was, you know, they just, whatever it was, you know, well, here's the emoji to put in your profile. Let's see. Employee Zainab Harara accused Jewish colleagues of victimizing themselves with feelings of safety and anti-Semitism. Yeah, this is never going to end. Hundreds of Google employees hijacked an International Women's Day event. I thought that was sacred. We want a beautiful, important day. International Women's Day event to attack Israel and accuse Jews of victimizing themselves. Screenshots provided to the Daily Wire reveal. So, yeah, this is, I wonder if the big tech companies are at some point just going to like de-wokeify themselves just so they can get a fucking moment of peace. Because all this shit is nonstop. This is what happens when you tell your employees that their feelings are the most important thing. When you pander to them. When you pander to the whims of their political fashion. Google's Summit for International Women's Day, slated for Thursday, was supposed to include on-topic audience questions submitted by employees through an internal platform called Dory. Instead, Google employees seized the opportunity to submit commentary bashing Israel. Yes, because that's the thing right now. So, of course, they're going to do that. Google software engineer Joel Scaff was the first to post about Israel on the platform, encouraging Google to avoid complicity in war crimes. Most of these people, by the way, if you ask them which river, which sea, maybe they'd guess the Mediterranean. They don't know the river. They don't know anything about it. All they know is that this is now the official left-wing sanctioned thing they're all supposed to care about. I can guarantee you and again, listen to me. Look, I don't have a Middle East peace plan, okay? All right? But I at least went and looked at the Hamas charter. And you can read it for yourself. You can finally, unless Google scrubbed that now because it's very inconvenient. If you read it, it's a very inconvenient from the far left right now. Extremely inconvenient. You know, in fact, there's stuff on there I can't say or else my stream will be immediately taken down, right? I would encourage you to go ahead and read that and see what the plan. Spoiler alert, they're not looking for a two-state solution. They're not looking for a political solution. Google has a cloud contract with the Israeli government under Project Nimbus to support its military, which is currently killing, starving, denying, blah, blah, and avoid it. So, look, I don't think these people understand anything of what's happening over there at all. I think everything they learn off TikTok, frankly. It's war. It's war. Horrible shit happens. What I will say is that you're a crazy company if this is the sort of thing you nurture within your company. I mean, whatever the latest thing is that they're all going to get upset about that they don't understand at all, they're going to do it on this, right? They were probably doing this with Dave Chappelle, like complaining about Dave Chappelle, you know, not long ago, or some other comedian that said a joke they didn't like that offended them. When you nurture this shit, when you tell your employees that their feelings are the most important thing and you really care when you don't actually care, right? Especially when you don't actually care, this is what you get. It's just all this obsessive current day thing. I mean, maybe they'll switch it up and maybe Ukraine will come back again and then they could all be obsessed with that. I don't know. I mean, I guess probably the obsession that's going to come up will be Trump again. They're already obsessed with Trump, but as it becomes more and more real that he's running against, he's the nominee and that he's winning, that polls are showing him winning, probably they'll switch up to that because that'll be the newest threat to the world, right? So this is what they've got. They've nurtured a culture of dysfunction because I think we've said this before.
Everything woke turns to shit.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Might want to avoid it. Again, I think they're going to have to de-wokeify their own company. I think they'll just do it so they can get a moment of fucking peace. All right, so let's go to the Twitter review. So, I don't want to play the music here. I'll play my own music for this. I don't want to play the music on there because it'll get a copyright strike. So let's do this. Says, guess the pronouns. Guess the pronouns. So you guys, I want you guys to tell me what you think the pronouns are. Put it in the chat. You guys think of anything? I'm going to say the pronouns are I'm going to say Dungeons, Dragons. Orc self. I will say orc self. I mean, we're making fun, but I mean, this is just a tragedy playing out in real life, isn't it? Although I don't know. I mean, you know, back when I was a kid, you know, there were kids that dressed up as Robert Smith, but that wasn't even as weird as this, though. This is still way weirder. It seems more unhealthy. You know, at least Robert Smith from The Cure, at least he was a great songwriter, right? I don't know what this is. This is just like an orc. Orc self. I don't know. I'm waiting for you guys. A Muppet. Invin says Muppet. Okay. Do you know what? I think you're right. Does kind of look like a Muppet. Maybe it could be playing like drums on the Muppet Show or something. But there's definitely like an orc feel about it to me. Fighting Yorikai on the on the rapid transit. All right, let's see what the people have to say about this. And I hope that they're being kind. I hope that they're kind in here. Spock is never around when needed. Okay. Looks like a cosplay. One of the few times I excuse people dressing and acting silly. You know what? That might be it. What are the other people dressed as? Do we see them in this? No, other people aren't. So I don't know. This might just be like their normal, might be on the way to their job at Starbucks. Feather duster. Well, that's an interesting one. Feather duster. Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it? Okay, that's good. And it's not too mean. We are approaching the end of civilization at a fast pace. Here's another one. I honestly don't care anymore. It is tiresome, isn't it? It is. Let's see. It says here, this is basically life in 2024. Well, at the risk of getting a copyright thing, let's watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to apologize.
Why did you say ladies first? That's sexist.
It's just a standard greeting. Let me start over. Gentlemen and ladies.
Who says the man?
Okay, sorry. Humans in the audience.
I identify as a basketball.
Humans and basketballs.
I'm a parrot who mimics words but doesn't comprehend them.
Humans, basketballs, talking parrots, and whatever else is out there.
Whatever? It's whoever. Actually, it's whomever. No one likes you, Mary.
All right. Just calm down, okay?
Now you're tone policing us.
Ladies.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see. Oh dear. The Starbucks cashier watching me not tip for my $6 drink. Yeah, I think we're all familiar with that look, aren't we? All familiar with that look. But that they have that look, even if you do tip them. That's the thing. Let's see. You don't get to decide how I identify, but I do get to decide how I identify you. Yes. That seems fair to me. Let's see. Okay. Let's move on. All right. So what's going on here? Woman calls cops on an aggressive person at work and makes a whole video on how she can recognize that in a given situation, calling the cops is the best option that she has, and that she can simultaneously, quote, still stand by ACAB. So ACAB means all cops are bastards. So she is, she's like an Antifa type. She's like, a far left revolutionary LARPer. So we know there's a lot of these around. And I've seen her before. I believe that I'm certain I've seen videos from her before. She thinks she's a bird. I'm not joking. She thinks she's a bird, like a falcon or an owl or something. I would say maybe more like a retarded budgie, perhaps. But she does. I'm certain this is the one who thinks she's a bird. Anyway, let's listen to this.
So yesterday I posted this on my story. My dad says I'm experiencing a stress spike hangover from the stress of calling 911 at work last night, and that's why I'm feeling so off today. Does anyone else have similar experiences? Now, somebody who has since been blocked commented on this story and said, oh, but still ACAB, right? Yes, in fact, still ACAB. I can recognize that in a given situation, calling the cops is the best option I have and still stand by ACAB. When there is somebody in the lobby of my workplace being aggressive and threatening physically.
What do they think is the alternative exactly? Like, what do they think the alternative is going to be? Right? Is she thinking that, she wishes she could call the social workers? Is that it? I mean, the modern left is dumb enough to actually think that, apparently. But this is the duality. This is like the double think of modern leftist ideology, right? It's an excuse to just always be right, to not have any principles, to never have to make any sacrifice for a principle, because two things can be right at the same time or at different times. She doesn't think cops should exist, but also, it's fair to call the cops if she feels threatened. Most people would see the inconsistency here, right? But this is actually how the left deals with everything. This is their double think. In their minds, they get to have their cake and eat it too all the time. Everything is both true and untrue, and it just depends on the circumstances, or as convenient, just whatever is most convenient. So maybe it's not true when it's inconvenient, when it's not convenient, but it is true when it is. Again, like gender being a social construct, but also a 5-year-old can know that they're in the wrong body, and they definitely are. That's definitely objectively true. It's an excuse to not have any principles, just to go with whatever feels left wing at the time. And even if it's not very left, because I guess, calling the police to protect you from some, aggressive person at work doesn't feel very left wing, but still you can kind of just say, well, it does right now, so it is. So it's fine. I'm just saying it's fine in this case, so it is. Again, an excuse to have absolutely no principles and to believe in absolutely nothing except your own narcissism. I wonder what the internet is saying about this. See, I told you. Okay, here we go. Same person. You may all remember Horace, who identifies as a red-tailed hawk. Went by the pronouns it, he. Let's see. She now goes by the name Osa, identifies as a bearded vulture, and uses they, z, bone, brittle as her pronouns. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
Hi, my name is Asa. I am a member of the DID system, and I'm also a bearded vulture therian. I have 2 questions.
DID system. So that is, I believe, the totally discredited dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities, Sybil, all of that stuff. which has been discredited. It doesn't actually exist. You don't actually have multiple personalities, but okay, let's just go with it.
One is for other Therians, specifically bird Therians. And the other question is for other systems who have Therian system members. So first question for other bird Therians, what are some things you do that help you feel more connected to your stereotype? Like, I know that for people whose stereotypes are four-legged, they can do quadrobics, and that helps them a lot. But obviously that's not applicable to bird Therians. I also want to clarify for anyone who doesn't know, quadrobics does not automatically equal Therians. People can do quadrobics and not be a Therian. So that's my first question.
Sorry, Kami, you're not a bird. We can all see you're not a bird. You might want to say you're a bird. You might even kind of feel like a bird, but you're not a bird. Other birds know that you're not a bird. All right? So humans and birds know that you're not a bird. In fact, like everything that can know anything knows that you're not a bird. All right? If a fence post could know anything, it would know that you're not a bird. Why are it's interesting how they're all Marxists too. They're all Marxists. You know, it's this change of tactic from class Marxism to identity Marxism. First, it went from class Marxism to race Marxism. Then it just went to identity Marxism so that it can just encompass every crazy person. Although I don't think these people are actually crazy. I think they know, I think this person knows they're not. How could you actually think that you're a bird? Or that it's in any way meaningful to say that you're a Therian? Is that what she said? That she identifies as a bird? Like, these are just metaphysical, abstract concepts. They don't really mean anything, right? It is in no way meaningful to say that you identify as a bird. So I don't think they really believe it. I mean, will this person be like at the park, like pecking seeds out of somebody's hand in like 50 years? I really doubt it. Although maybe there should be a place for them at the zoo, perhaps. Maybe what they could do is because they closed down all the mental institutions, maybe they can open up all the mental institutions again, but put them in zoos. And then we can view the Therians in their natural habitat. Fuck, that's a great idea. So just for a second, I just want to check. So seem to be having a problem for the stream with the chat actually coming up onto the screen during. I know it's in the chat window, just like if you're watching on a computer or I guess on your phone or something, but it's not actually showing up on the screen. So there's obviously some problem with chat right now, but I'm not getting anything in from Rumble in the Rumble chat. So if there's somebody on Rumble right now, in case nobody has just put anything in through the chat, could you try just put something in, thumbs up or something, just so I can see that it's actually working? Yeah, because we do seem to be having some issue with the chat tonight, unfortunately. All right. So anyway, this woman isn't a bird. We've established that. Let's see. Well, you see, this is what I was talking about. The left is really good at holding two opposing ideas at the same time and insisting both are valid. I really don't understand how that works. You know, it's explained in 1984. Doublethink. Which I guess that, you know, they're the modern leftists, they just see it as a guidebook. And it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a warning. So she gets her wish defunding the police. Who does she call the next time she feels threatened? A social worker. Again, I guess great minds think alike. Yeah, that is the question, right? There probably is some answer in her mind that, yeah, it's like social workers. Or that, you know, once that you have the communist utopia and everybody's just, you know, makes a living by being revolutionary poets or bird people, that will somehow magically solve it all. I'm not sure. Let's see. Was this the guy? He needs medical attention. Okay, so we don't need to see that. I didn't have a better option than hypocrisy and contradicting myself in that situation. All right. So going back to the chat here, Air Rifle said pronouns, it thing. Do you know what? I think it works. All right, let's move on. Let's see, what do we got? So we saw that one. Here we go. Canada's military. So this is CTV News, which is pretty much as much state media as the CBC is in Canada at this point. I doubt would exist if it weren't for taxpayer dollars being showered on it by Justin Trudeau. They're quite woke. Canada's military will soon have a new leader. Will it finally be a woman? Yeah, that's the question we're all waiting for with bated breath. Nobody in Canada. It's been so painful for us not having a female leader of the military. Jesus Christ. I mean, when we say that we feel these people are completely detached from reality, completely detached from the pulse of the normal person, whether it's in Canada or the US or the UK, wherever, Australia as well, you could throw them in there, that all of these legacy media outlets are completely detached from the pulse of what people are actually thinking. This is what we're talking about. Will it finally be a woman? Just, you know, nobody gives a shit about this. This is not a question that anybody is asking other than journalists, apparently. Nobody, personally, I think that for it to be a woman, you're going to have to be drawing from a smaller talent pool. Maybe there's a woman that would be best for the job, but you're going to be drawing from a much smaller talent pool, and it's unlikely the best person for the job is going to be a woman just because of numbers, just because it's numbers. It's a numbers game. I feel like at this point, one second. I feel like at this point, Canada might as well just pre-surrender to just whoever wants to invade us, right? Just pre-surrender at this point because it's pointless. Trudeau's completely wrecked the military already anyway. I mean, no weapons, no ammunition, tampons in the men's rooms, though. So you got that. I'm not sure how that helps you win a war exactly, though. But it's there. So, you know, apparently the soldiers don't really like it. They tear them down from the bathroom wall and then they get in trouble. Canadian soldiers, there was a story. I did a video on it. You might want to subscribe to the channel and then you can find that video. But they were in Europe. Where were they? It's like the Czech Republic or something, or Romania. I can't remember exactly, but they were in Europe. And it was Eastern Europe, and they were having to buy their own gear. They were literally having to buy their own gear because they had just no money. There's no money for them. So they're serving overseas, and they're having to buy their own gear, like pay for their own meals and stuff. That's how bad it's gotten. So it's a completely unfunded military, essentially. You know, Trudeau seems to, and the media just seem to be saying anyway, that Canada just like this perpetual genocide state with like 18 different genocides happening at any given time. So that would probably be demoralizing already, right? That's not going to be inspiring to defend a country in the first place. So I guess at this point, so of course it's going to be women. That the answer is, of course it is, right? Trudeau's Canada. Of course it is. Of course it's going to be a woman, or maybe a trans woman. I don't know. If China wants to control our military, they just have to send like a trans quadriplegic or something, and Trudeau will just immediately appoint them. Because frankly, he wouldn't be able to help himself. Ooh, goody. Anyway, that's just an example that I think anybody in the West would recognize, that like a headline like this from one of their legacy media sources, one of their corporate media sources, like totally detached from the reality of normal people and what people actually care about. All right. Let's see. There's a quick little video of Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, talking about Trudeau's climate. Talking about Trudeau's climate czar, Stephen Guilbeault, who's a complete eco-lunatic.
And he's against roads. We saw that as well. I don't know what kind of mud huts he would have us living in, but this is the guy who is in charge of the environment for Justin Trudeau. We need to get rid of him and put in place a common sense minister who understands that that our resources are a benefit to the world, not a hindrance to the environment. And then we need to cut taxes. And he's against roads. We saw that as well. I don't know what kind of mud huts he would.
Yeah, so Stephen Guilbeault said that he would, who's the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change, because of course Canada has a Minister of Climate Change. But yeah, he says he doesn't want to put any more funding in for new roads. He's kind of walked that back now a little bit, but he wants to just get rid of all the cars. He wants us traveling around by hot air balloon and zip lines, I think. And Poilievre says, I don't know what kind of mud huts they want us to live in. There are the true and on in Canada would keep voting for Trudeau, even if they were reduced to living in a mud hut. They would still do it. But yeah, it does seem Trudeau and his ministers seem to be determined to completely economically destroy Canada, and it's all pointless because Canada cannot change global climate. We're like responsible for like 1 or 2% of the world's carbon. It's not going to make any difference when China's building, 100 new coal plants every week anyway. But anyway, let's keep going. Okay, so this is why we like Pierre Poilievre, because he's able to express things. He's not afraid to express things just clearly in a way that represents reality. So conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says the Trudeau government, British Columbia Premier David Eby, and corrupt pharmaceutical companies caused the drug epidemic. So before we start this, it should just be noted, and I've done videos on this as well, which are very interesting, using government statistics, right? And you can subscribe to the channel and check that out. But in, say, British Columbia, for instance, British Columbia started what they call harm reduction strategies in about 2005, I believe it was, or 2003, I think. So about 20 years record on this. So it went from, by 2021, it had gone from under 300 overdoses a year to about 3,000. That's 2021. It's gone up since then. So that's what they call harm management, right? So that's like free needles. That's like legal drug dens, essentially, injection sites, that sort of thing, reducing punishments for like possession of drugs, all of that. Since then it has evolved into actually giving people drugs, like meth, for instance, actual meth. You can see the packaging for it. It's like government package. Like you can see, it just says meth on it. Cocaine, heroin. That's what it's progressed to. So you've got more than an order of magnitude worse deaths, everything. All of the attendant ills, societal ills around that, of course, increased by an order of magnitude. So let's hear what Pierre has to say about it. Because all we get from the far left, from the NDP or the Liberals in Canada, from Trudeau, is that this saves lives, when statistically it's just false. But let's take a look.
We were told that decriminalizing crack, heroin, cocaine, and other hard drugs was proven by all the experts to work. And then if we added to that, taxpayers...
I just want to restate too. So the free drugs they give out on the packaging, again, it doesn't say, like, it's not like some long, like, pharmaceutical word description of what it is, right? It just says meth. Like, literally just says meth. Anyway.
Subsidized opioids, which they called, ironically, a safe supply, that somehow this was going to protect addicts from overdoses. What has happened? The data's in, the debate is over. We've had 40,000 overdose deaths in the last 8 years, a 200% increase. And where these policies have been tried most enthusiastically, the results have been the most horrifying. BC is ground zero, because not only does Justin Trudeau's policies apply here, but David Eby and the NDP policies have applied here as well. And that is why what they did is they took a walk down the downtown east side 10 years ago, and they said, why don't we try this everywhere? And they expanded the model nationwide. And the irony is, how did the opioid crisis start in the first place? A bunch of corrupt pharmaceutical companies lied to the medical system so that they could push OxyContin on desperate working class people who were out of luck, out of a job, and out of hope. And they caused a crisis on which they made billions. They knew exactly what they were doing. Documents prove they were literally paying bonuses to the distributors for each overdose they caused. They wanted to supercharge sales. That's how it started. Pharmaceutical grade opioids. And now, what is the so-called safe supply? Pharmaceutical grade opioids, profiting the same companies to give out the same drugs that caused the crisis in the first place. And just yesterday, the RCMP confirmed that thousands of these pills have made their way into the hands of organized crime. So your tax dollars are paying for organized criminals to get their hands on the same pharmaceutical drugs that caused the crisis in the first place. This is insanity. I will put an end to it. We will stop funding drugs and start funding treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free.
So, so what is it? It's a cycle of dependence and misery. That's the left wing, far left solution right now. Always is, actually. Cycle of dependence and misery. Right? Dependent on the government for everything, including hard drugs, including meth and cocaine. Which, by the way, this cycle of dependence and misery culminates in medical assistance in dying, or MAID, as they call it in Canada. So they'll give you the drugs, right? They'll give you the drugs to make your life so horrible that you'll want to kill yourself, and then the government will kill you. You just have to ask them. Don't even have to ask nice. They're happy to do it. You know? Maybe they give you, a thank you for your vote or something, right before the end. I don't know. And this is what they call empathy, by the way. All right. We should move on. I had something else I wanted to say, and I've just completely forgotten it. What was it? All right, let's move on. Don't think I want to hear that person. So what is this? What is this? Let's take a look.
So after a lot of feedback on my species-neutral restroom that I include in my concerts, I realized that having a litter box just wasn't enough. I needed to include something for canine identifying individuals, and that's why now I'm providing a fire hydrant and puppy pad at all of my concerts. So after a lot of feedback...
So what does that, is that parody, or is that satire? Is that parody? What is that exactly? I don't know.
What does that mean?
I don't know, Pierre. I have no idea. I can't tell anymore. I can't tell when they're being serious and when they're not anymore. It's almost impossible. I mean, again, I say it all the time. The left seems to be trying to kill satire and parody. I can't tell the difference. It's indistinguishable from satire anyway. Is it a joke or not? I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, I just can't tell. It's confusing. So, what is it? It's species neutral bathrooms. Species neutral. There's a cat litter box. So I guess you're supposed to take the lid off, I guess. So this makes me wonder if it's a joke. Because shouldn't it not have a lid on it? Because obviously a person can't go in there. You can't fit in there. It'd have to be a very tiny person. So, no. And then you've got this little pad on the floor with a fire hydrant. This leads me to believe that this is a joke. I think it might be. Though, again, sadly, you just can't tell anymore. It's basically impossible to tell. But I suspect this is a joke. I just don't know. I mean, that would be one really disgusting bathroom, right? Like, just totally disgusting. So, I don't know. Maybe it's real. I mean, does she think that she's an animal? Maybe some sort of like parrot or something, perhaps. Like that other lady we saw earlier. I don't know. I would like to know what you guys think, though. What are people saying about it? I hope it's kind. Mental illness. Well, if true, yes. If that's actually serious, yes, definitely. Excuse me, what planet is this? It's Planet Woke, I'm afraid. Let's see. Sex is real, non-binary is narcissistic bullshit. Yes, I believe so. I think most of them don't believe it themselves. It's too silly. Jesus. All right. Let's go back. Let's move on to the next one. What are we, an hour and 35 minutes in? All right. Well, here's one. Titania McGrath. That's a parody account there. So as posted, Happy International Women's Day. What are we going to see here? I think we know, don't we? Woman arrested in Oxford for bomb threats. Woman arrested for bomb threats. Okay. Let's see the next one. Woman jailed after stabbing and falsely imprisoning partner in Halifax. So this woman here, this brave and stunning woman, what's the word? Maybe there are no words. Let's see. Woman jailed over cocaine-fueled sex with dog in disgusting incident. So that is an accurate headline for once. Woman jailed over cocaine-fueled sex with dog in disgusting incident. Except there's something about that woman. There's something about that woman that just, maybe it's the stubble. I don't know. Ex-soldier exposed her penis and used wheelie bin as sex toy in public. Ex-soldier exposed her penis. I'd love to see like the process where they're deciding what the headlines are going to be, right? For ex-soldier exposed her penis and just all of these. Woman jailed. I mean, I feel like we should have a rule. I feel like if you're obviously a man, then you're definitely not a woman. I think we can all just agree on this. Can we not? Like, this should just be the new rule that everybody can go by. Okay. If it just looks like you're obviously a man, then we can just all agree that you're definitely not a woman. Call me crazy. I think this works though. Anybody who is obviously a man, we can just agree is definitely not a woman because of the fact that they're obviously a man. I just feel like that works. It's simple, it's clean. Can we just get back to that? I mean, that is the way it's always been, has it not? Somebody who was obviously a man was obviously not a woman because they were a man, right? I kind of feel like we should just get back to that. I think that we're going to at some point. This whole play acting, the charade of having to pretend, having headlines like this, woman jailed. I mean, the person who wrote that headline cannot believe that's a woman. It's impossible. It is impossible to believe that this, yeah. Let me shrink that down just a little bit. Oh, why is it doing that? All right. It's impossible to believe that that is a woman. It's just not realistic. It's impossible to believe this is a woman. Right? The people writing these headlines, they know that's not a woman. They know it. How can you not? Look, the guy's got a freaking beard. I mean, it's clearly motivated by fashion, by, modern woke fashion, by the woke mind virus. Do we really have to be worried about offending the woman arrested for bomb threats? Do we really have to be worried about hurting the feelings of the woman jailed for stabbing and falsely imprisoning somebody? Like, do we really need to be worried about offending the woman jailed over cocaine-fueled sex with the dog? It's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, Mr. Cocaine-fueled sex with dog person, but you're just obviously a man, right? We can all tell. Apparently an awful man. I don't think it makes a lick of sense. I gotta be honest. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. Here's another one from Libs of TikTok. This isn't parody. This person showed up to testify in the Missouri House against HB 1650, which would ban drag shows for kids. Again, here's another thing we could pretty much should just be all able to agree on, right? Drag shows for kids? Why? Why does this person need to do that in front of kids? Nobody cares if you do it in front of other adults. These drag clubs have been around for decades. Nobody ever gave a shit. Nobody's ever tried to close down a drag club where adults go and do their thing. Nobody cared. Nobody at all. It's just the whole kids thing. Why do you need to be doing this in front of children? That is the question. All right, let's listen to this. It's going to be just utter nonsense. It's all the same stuff. So the person who wants to do drag shows in front of kids is going to use all the same buzzwords, white supremacy, all of that. That's what they're going to do, right? Because the magic words that are supposed to cast the spell over you, to confuse your mind, cast a spell of confusion over your mind, make you fearful and scared of being called an ist or a phobe or something, right? That magic spell is broken, I think. But they still trot it out every time. Let's hear.
Hello, my name is Maxi Glamour, MaxiGlamour. And it's a very unfortunate situation that we are here today to battle this inherently homophobic, and transphobic bill that is intentionally put into place to eradicate gender nonconforming people from the public forum. While I understand that this bill was put into place.
No, it just means you can't do your weird thing in front of children. That's all. That's all. And I really do think that the vast majority of people don't want you doing that in front of kids. Go ahead and do it in a club with adults. Do it with adults anyway, in some wherever you can do, just where kids are not there. Why the obsession with doing it in front of kids? All right.
Placed by an uncultured individual who hasn't actually been to a drag show. The last time we were here, the bill was defeated because of the fact that there were many people stating the sociocultural, artistic, and economic benefits that drag provides to the state of Missouri. And so when we're looking at this, we are having a...
Is it really such a, like, an economic benefit? Really? Like, how much of an industry is it really? Right? Like, if it was really this amazing thing, I mean, probably like you'd get offers to, like, other countries would be trying to recruit you. For some reason they're not, apparently. But anyway, let's continue.
Mass exodus of competent, socially aware, professional individuals leaving our cities because they are stuck within the confines of a white supremacist transphobic policy that keeps getting reintroduced.
White supremacist transphobic policy. White supremacy. Is that white supremacy again? They seem to see it a lot. Seems to be responsible for a lot of ills. Somehow white supremacy is at fault here. I think if that's what it is, maybe you should visit like Afghanistan or something, or just like almost any other non-white country. You're talking about white supremacy. Go to pretty much almost any other non-white country and see how the white supremacy is going over there. In fact, if it's white supremacy, I have this feeling that there's probably, like in Afghanistan, there's way more of it there. If that's the only reason you could be opposed to doing drag shows for children, I've got a feeling that Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia might have major white supremacy problems. Pretty much like all of Africa, right? Pretty much anywhere that's not full of white people. I think you'd be surprised by the level of white supremacy in these places. If that's really the problem here, if that's the only explanation for how anybody could be opposed to you doing drag dances in front of children. Do they even believe their own bullshit? That's the question. Do they even believe their own bullshit? I don't think they do. I think it's just this easy thing. Again, it's like a magic trick. It's like a magic spell that they've been able to cast to shroud people's minds with confusion because they're scared of being called a name, right? Well, I think that spell is broken. It's not entirely broken yet. It's getting there. Again, rebuild the mental institutions. We really need to get on top of that, I think. Anyway, I think that's enough of that, isn't it? Let's see. How about this one from Dr. Jebra Fauché? It shouldn't be so hard to find a guy that accepts woof self. Why are there no good men out there? All right, let's check this out.
So you're saying that you would like a gentlemanly man, somebody who courts you, takes you on a date, all of these sorts of things?
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit in two minds here because I can hear what you're saying, but then I can see that you're dressed as a cat.
I'm a dog,
and
so...
you call yourself a dog.
Woof, yes.
Do you think that that might be a deterrent for a man who is more traditional if you're dressing like a dog?
No, I don't. I'm not.
So when you look at a relationship, are you looking at like a pet owner type relationship, or like two dogs in the relationship, or what's your ideal?
A partner who loves and respects me and sees me as an equal that I am.
But you see yourself as an actual dog, right? You said you like to go play fetch.
Woof, yes.
So how does that tie into your relationship? Like, what are you looking for if you're a dog?
I'm looking for somebody to throw me a ball and then also say, oh, hey, I appreciate you,
So you're saying that you would like a...
I'm sorry, you're not a dog. My question is, do you have to pick up her shit at the park? Probably. That would be a barrier for me, personally. One thing I love about this is the smugness. Let's watch it. Hold on a second.
Like a dog?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not.
So when you look at a relationship, are you looking at like a pet owner type relationship, or like two dogs in the relationship, or what's your ideal?
A partner who loves and respects me and sees me as an equal.
See that? The smugness there? Yeah, just a partner who'll pick up my shit at the park. There's nothing to be smug about. Yeah, well, yeah, there's nothing to be smug about in this situation, right? This is dumb. This is silly. It's extremely silly. She doesn't think she's a dog. You know, I mean, maybe she's a real howler. maybe she keeps the neighbors up all night. Who knows? Can you put her in the backyard if she's nagging too much? Because that'd be convenient. But are we supposed to believe that this isn't just narcissistic fashion, that this isn't just trying to get attention? Are we really supposed to believe that? Really? Is she still going to be woofing at 80 in the old folks' home? I really don't think so. You know, again, it's just attention. It's just attention. It's probably not going to be so, I guess, cute, you know, when she's like 60 or 70 or 80. Of course, it's never going. This is going to end. She doesn't really think she's a dog. It's a way of getting attention, obviously, you know. I hope she doesn't keep it up because I don't. Let's just say I think it's a red flag for a potential, you know, wife, mother kind of thing. I feel like it's kind of a red flag, you know, if she's referring to how one day she wants puppies. Here's a question. If a dog lady barks in a one-bedroom apartment after finishing a box of wine, does anybody hear? Does anybody hear? You know, I guess the neighbors probably hear. And they bang on the wall and tell her to shut up. Yeah. Anyway, people are crazy. Let's see. What does the internet have to say about this? And I hope it's kind. This is normal. Woof. Favorite position is doggy style. What? Good Lord. You had to go there. Liberalism is a mental disorder. You know, I think it really can lead you down that path. It seems like it does. Or at least to pretend. You know, maybe it's the whole kind of victim culture, right, that leftism has turned into. Right? Oppression culture. You've got to be something so that you can be oppressed. Something that's not just normal, so that you can say, well, I'm oppressed because I'm a parrot. And, you know, white supremacy oppresses parrot people. You know, I don't know. It's something to do with it. You've got to be something. You can't just be like a normal, well-adjusted person. You've got to have something that somebody could oppress you over. At least in theory. The damage TikTok has done to our children is alarming. It makes me angry that they can't a name can't mention on any social media network are being successful at this. I'm starting to question this platform too, unfortunately. Makes me very sad to say that. TikTok is the major party in this. It's obviously owned by China. And anything remotely conservative gets canceled off it. Anything, even like just like traditional liberal, just common sense, moderate, whatever, is immediately banned off TikTok. And it's stuff like the bird ladies and stuff, and like Dylan Mulvaney is artificially promoted on TikTok on purpose because it's owned by China. And every Chinese company, above, I think it's like 20 or 50 employees, something like that, actually has a Chinese Communist Party office at that company. to promote the goals of the Chinese Communist Party. And the goal with TikTok is to demoralize the United States and the West in general. So they artificially promote all of this stuff, and anything that would be healthy is immediately banned, right? In China, they don't see this shit. In China, it's all like engineering videos, stuff like that, and patriotic stuff. It's just so clearly a psyop. It's so clearly psychological warfare against the West that, yeah, I think it should be shut down, or they should be forced to divest for it, to sell it. I'm not saying it's going to be, if an American company, for instance, bought it, I'm not saying it's going to be great, but I don't think it would be as bad. I mean, it is, TikTok is just open. It's just an obvious psychological warfare operation against the West at this point. Let's see. Let's see. What do we got? I love my dog and my dog loves me, but we are not dating. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Let's go with that one. Thanks, North Face. So this is Danny Polishchuk. I actually haven't watched this, so hopefully this isn't something that's going to get my channel taken down. But let's watch it. He's funny, Danny Polishchuk. He does little stuff with Ryan Long. So let's take a look.
Hey, what's good? My name is Corey Hunky Dory Thurman, and I'm the Chief Diversity Officer here at AND1. North Face made the news recently by offering people a 20% off coupon for taking a racial inclusion course because not enough people of color like to go hiking and be outside and shit, apparently due to the outdoors being racist or whatever. And while you know us as a basketball shoe company, as well as our famous street ball mixtapes, we take activism and inclusion incredibly serious. So much so that I'm the only white chief diversity officer of any apparel company in the United States. Maybe of any company, period. You might say I'm like the Jackie Robinson of diversity. So, AND1 will be following North Face's lead, and we'll be offering our own racial inclusion course in exchange for discounted shoes. Did you know that 96% of all participants at AND1 mixtape events are black? Turns out white people don't feel like they belong at our events and are hesitant to play, even though one of the greatest street ballers of all time, the Professor, is a white dude. And what a white-ass nickname he has, the Professor? Anyway, what we've learned here is white people enjoy playing basketball, but don't enjoy the humiliation and disrespect that is commonplace in street ball. Black people clearly do not understand the privilege they possess, whereby they can be playing in a street ball game while getting absolutely roasted by the MC, and they don't take it personally.
Oh, yeah! I sizzle! Yeah! He mad now, sizzle! Oh, baby! He mad, sizzle! Oh, yeah!
White people really seem to not like it when they're playing defense and get the ball thrown at their heads or get their pants pulled down to their ankles. And that is just not an inclusive space. And as a society, we need to work at that. Here at AND1, we are looking at making all people feel safe and welcome on the courts. Plus, the black players don't mind it as much as they can take it a lot easier and really pad their stats.
Well, that's not as good as his usual ones, but it's not bad. I'll have to find a better one for next time. Let's keep going. Let's see. Do you think he got it right? So what's this?
Look, Mom, I'm American. I'm non-binary. That's transphobic. That's offensive. Look, Mom, I'm
That's such a random thing. That is such a random thing. I'm a fan of it. I like it. So what the hell is this from Alpha Fox? If you don't make at least 500,000, don't even apply, fellas. So what's going on here?
How much should a guy earn for you to date him?
Over 500K, close to $1 million. If he doesn't, I'm not gonna say yes
100. He gets paid every year 500. He saves that towards the ring. If he doesn't, he's gonna get a no, and it's gonna be embarrassing.
I would have guessed like a bucket of KFC would have done it. Personally, I don't know. What do I know? But anyway, good for you, Queen. I'm sure this is going to end well. Bucket of KFC and a 24-pack of toilet paper. That should do the trick. Now, I assume that she's joking. Again, you can't tell anymore, you know? I assume she's joking, but maybe TikTok told her to just have this grossly inflated sense of self-worth. Who are we kidding? TikTok definitely told her to have this grossly inflated sense of self-worth, because I guess that's how it works these days. Yeah. This is what like double cheeseburgers have nightmares about. That they saw this video. This is like, she's like what like cows tell stories to their children about to get them to behave. That was mean. I wonder what the internet's saying. Probably nice stuff. Let's take a look. Oh, shucks. She's out of my price range. Let's see. How much does she make? I'm guessing very little. Funny, I don't see a ring in her finger on your finger yet. Wonder why that is. Oh, what do they say about beggars can't be choosers? Let's see. Filming special needs people is frowned upon. That's true. You need. All right, you need to make $500,000 in order to pay her grocery bill. And this is in the age of inflation. Better to pull a full mill in order to be safe. It's true. For feeding her? Yeah. I thought the comments were going to be nicer, more polite. Let's see. All right, let's move on. They got too mean. We got to move on. Let's see. So back to Canada news. This is from Brian Lilly, Canadian journalist. This is a devastating assessment from a respected economist at one of the biggest banks in the country. So what does this say? In a bigger picture sense, I'm deeply worried about the public policy in my country. So it's not just the rest of us. Productivity is in a tailspin. Let's see. Tax policy is uncompetitive. Do we get better quality outcomes in state-run healthcare and education sectors? Try visiting an ER lately. Enough said. Yeah. Yeah, Trudeau is destroying everything in Canada. And I mean, normally, you know, guys at bank, they don't usually get too political, but it's so bad in Canada right now that, I mean, it's just obvious the country is falling apart. Hate to see it. Knock, knock. Who's there? Owen. Owen who? Owen 9. That's the Supreme Court decision there on the Colorado ballot. All right. So he's winning. He's winning court decisions. So everything they're trying to throw at him, I mean, it feels like destiny at this point. But I have to say, I worry for Trump's health. I worry for his health. I mean, after everything they've thrown at him now for like 8 years, it feels like there's really nothing that they won't stop at this point, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like that? I mean, especially when you've got a media that's just completely complicit in everything, right? It feels like there's nothing they can't get away with. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I worry about him. I think it's extremely important for Trump, for the world. I mean, if anybody take a look around, the world is burning right now. Everything's falling apart. I think it's incredibly important for them. They say that when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Well, I don't know what the rest of the world is going to catch with another 4 years of Biden, but it affects the rest of the world in serious and important ways. You know, I mean, it's a global concern. All right, so here's something that you don't see much on The View. Let's take a look.
And the same agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused and sexually molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 50 to 60%. So
there was also a pandemic going on, and they were trying to save kids' lives.
Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
And that's what happens when you get all of your news from CNN. I mean, maybe they don't even get their news from CNN. Maybe their news they just get from their producer, hands them, what their opinion is supposed to be before every show. But they know nothing. They don't even know about what the risk actually was for kids. They don't know that. They've never seen it. Like, a lot of the time, I'll watch these people talking and I'll think, well, they can't be that stupid. But the thing is, if you get all of your news from like Anderson Cooper, you know nothing, right? Like, people who think that Biden is spry and fit and totally mentally with it, right? You have to understand, they've never seen anything that would suggest otherwise, because they don't see it on CNN or like MSNBC. If he's quoted in like the New York Times or Washington Post, they edit it. They clean it up to make it sound like he's lucid. They cut out all the weird silences and ums and uhs and the weird gibberish that he spouts out. They don't ever see any of that. They don't know that it exists. His image is carefully protected by the mainstream media. And of course, these same sources tell them never to go anywhere else. Don't ever watch Fox. Not that Fox News is great, but you'll at least see some reality on there, right? They're warned. I mean, misinformation, of course, independent journalism, that's all misinformation. That's Putin's behind it all. It's all Russian propaganda. So they never see anything that would reveal reality to them, ever. So, like these women on The View, they've never heard anything like this before. What Dr. Phil is telling them there, they have never heard before. This is their first time hearing it. They are ignorant. They are woefully ignorant, as well as also being stupid as well, obviously. Let's see what the internet has to say. The fact that the audience applauded shows just how out of touch these blathering harpies, I like that, blathering harpies, are when it comes to how most people see the issue. It says, always knew Dr. Phil was based. Well, I didn't know that. He's saying base things these days. Dr. Phil was able to make his point of view without getting attacked from the reality deniers. So maybe they didn't want Oprah getting mad at them. Although Oprah probably wouldn't like that either. Didn't know the doc was chill like that. All right. So it's amazing that they didn't go like full like witch trial on him there. Actually, I do find that surprising because normally they don't tolerate anything sane on their show, right? All right, we're going for over 2 hours. I need to take a just a break for a minute. So give me 1 minute. I'll be right back, okay? All right, I'm back. Thanks for hanging on, everybody. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the stream was that I hit 12,000 subscribers on YouTube this month. So very happy about that. And thanks to everybody who subscribed. My goal is to get to 100,000 subscribers, so I'm 12% of the way. So maybe by the end of this month, we can get it to 13%. Who knows? But anyway, let's move on. Okay, this is an interesting one from Dr. Jabra Fauché. This person has some questions specifically for Trump supporters. Maybe there are one or two people who can help Zimzer. Okay, and this is going to be totally sane, by the way. Let's take a look.
To all the Trump supporters and Christian nationalists, I have a question. Trump overturned Roe versus Wade.
Okay, Trump didn't. That was the Supreme Court.
Trump wants to deport all non-citizens.
No, he wants to deport illegal immigrants.
Trump wants to be a dictator.
He was clearly joking. He said dictator for one day. He was clearly joking. This is what Trump does.
Trump said he wants to terminate the Constitution.
He has never said anything remotely close to that. That is insane. You need to turn off MSNBC.
Right now, we have a Constitution that protects our free speech and our right to have firearms. My question is, if Trump terminates the Constitution, And what protects our rights to offer free speech and to carry firearms? That's the question for today.
So obviously a false premise that is ridiculous and idiotic. My question is, who told you that balding with blue hair was a good idea? Because that's a bad idea. In fact, just this whole thing is a bad idea, I think. This is what happens when you get all your information from CNN and The View. Probably actually just The View, actually. Although, actually, after the Dr. Phil segment, probably stopped watching The View. It was too triggering. So this is what happens when you get all of your information from The View and you have a chemical imbalance, I think. Here's my question. Who told you that any part of what you're doing here was a good idea? Because whoever that person who told you that, who said, yes, you're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing. Whoever that person was, that person lied to you. That person is a liar. You cannot trust that person. Do not trust them ever again. Whatever that person tells you, do the exact opposite. Just do the exact. Here's some words of wisdom.
Everything woke turns to shit.
Yeah. You need to pick your friends carefully, I think. You can't trust just anybody, especially not like TikTok. Maybe that's where this person gets all their information from, TikTok. That would make sense. I wonder if the internet has anything to say about this. I think we should take a look. Thought that was Riff Raff from Rocky Horror, but less handsome. Let's see. My question is, who does your hair? I hope you don't pay for that. Let's see. It is supremely obvious that you do not understand the three branches of government. Judicial branch, SCOTUS, separation of power, Congress, House, and Senate, and the limited powers of the executive branch. Study up on those and you will be able to answer your own questions. That's a good idea. I think he'd be more believable if his hair was green instead of blue. That, and if he actually had any idea what he was talking about. That's a voter, by the way. This person very likely votes. It's terrifying. Terrifying. Would anybody entrust the fate of Western civilization in this person's hands? In this person's probably large, manly hands? The bright colors help us identify them in public. Stay safe out there. That is true that there are insects that are brightly colored to warn the other, predators not to consume them because they're poisonous. So that is a thing. I think some of them also pretend that they're birds, bird people, and also dogs as well. Because, yeah, those are all red flags. Let's see. Damn it, Dylan, take the phone away from your dad. Is that Dylan Mulvaney's dad? Would not be surprised. Let's see. The SCOTUS overturned Roe versus Wade, not Trump. Trump can't terminate the Constitution, even if he actually wanted to. I'm going to stop right here and suggest this person study up on the three branches of government and what they can and cannot do. Then try this again. Yeah, the person's not going to learn anything. Let's see. All right, let's move on. I don't see how this is like helpful for Western civilization. I don't see how. This seems to be the goal for the mainstream media seems to love this shit. Seems to be the goal for every single person. Every single person has to be this, whatever that is. I don't know what that is. Whatever that is, you have to be that. You have to think you're a bird or a dog, or pretend that you think that you're a bird or a dog. You know, you've got to, chemically castrate yourself or surgically, or, you've got to demand that there's no police, and then somehow think that, the social workers are going to save you. I don't know. It's all crazy. It all seems to be directed somehow. It seems to be like a big, psychological warfare operation. Because I just don't think that healthy societies look like it, right? I don't think that a healthy society looks like Canada right now. I'll tell you that much. But anyway, let's see. We've already been through that stuff. This is good. A man dual-wielding raw steaks. All right, let me start over. A man dual-wielding raw steaks slaps diners in the face at vegan restaurant yelling, "If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding." Legend. That's a great man. That's a king right there. That is a king. runs into a vegan restaurant, dual-wielding raw steaks, slapping diners in the face. "If you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding." And it's good to know that Pink Floyd isn't forgotten either. That's very good. What a great man. Let's see what the internet's saying about it. Not the hero we deserved, but the hero we needed. Yep, I couldn't agree more. Not all heroes wear capes. No, they don't. Some of them are holding steaks at vegan restaurants. Let's see, anything else good? The hair, the 70s porn stash, the steak wielding. This guy is a fucking legend. This makes me feel good. This gives me hope, for optimism for the future of humanity. That this is real, that this can exist. This actually gives me hope. This is a white pill for me. Things will get better. If there's more men like this, things can only get better in this world. Dual wielding steaks. It's perfect. Is there a GoFundMe for him? I would absolutely contribute to that. Let's see. Please let this be true. I believe it. We find the defendant not guilty. No jury of his peers would convict that man. Not for that great deed. So it needed to be done. All right, let's move on. All right, what do we got here? So, special comment from Deborah Fauché again. She's one of my favorites. Special accommodation should be made for people who can't get along with their coworkers. So let's hear this. I'm sure this is going to be very adult and mature and well adapted.
So I have an accommodation at work that I cannot work with one of my coworkers. Thankfully, they do not work at my home store. They work at a different store in a different city. So I don't see them, but I have to go to that store now once a week to help them out with some stuff. And so I talked to the owner and was like, this is an accommodation that if she comes in and I'm working, like, you're going to have to be okay with me leaving immediately. But we talked about, luckily, she has certain days that she comes in, right? So I'm being scheduled to go in on Thursdays when she's not supposed to be there. Well, my other coworker texts me and was like, hey, Miss is here. You probably don't want to come in. And I didn't respond right away. So she even called me and was like, I need to make sure that you got this message that she is here. And she is real for that. But now I have to come in on Sunday to make up my hours. So I have an.
So what happened to just being an adult and just dealing with shit? What happened to that? What happened to just being an adult? You know, like being able to deal with these uncomfortable situations is part of being an adult, is it not? I believe that it is. Also, not getting a giant bee tattooed on your neck, that used to be part of being an adult as well, I think. Yeah, that's a bad call, I'm going to say. That might be regretted at some point. But yeah, I mean, just dealing with things as an adult. Like, she has some anxiety about having to be around somebody she doesn't like. So therefore, everything has to revolve around that. Like, no, it's really not that hard. It's not that scary being around people that you don't like. You just have to do it sometimes. It's part of being an adult. I bet the internet has something to say about this. We certainly will accommodate you leaving immediately and permanently. That should be the response. Look, it's me, center of the universe. Yeah. It shouldn't be rewarded, that kind of narcissism. So, like, I'm super entitled and you all have to deal with my emotional deficiencies. And if you're not okay with that, then I'm just going to have to bail so that I don't have to feel inconvenienced sometimes. I don't think this is one of those things where it's not a kindness to a person. Like, you're just making them weaker. You're enabling them to be weak and to be useless. It's not a kindness to the person. Like, really, at her age, she should be able to deal with that situation, and she'd be better off being able to deal with it. Whatever anxiety or whatever she's dealing with, that could be mediated by actually just facing things and dealing with them. I mean, let's not forget, these are the people that are going to run the world eventually. I feel like they're probably not going to do a very good job. Not if they're pandered to in that way. I have accommodations ready for her right here. That's good. They already have accommodations. It's called unemployment. Sounds like a personal problem. Why share it with the world? Time to adult, little girl. High school is over. Yeah, it's very childish, right? These are like the concerns of like a 10-year-old. You know, and even with a 10-year-old, you tell them just deal with it. Like this is how you prepare for being an adult, right? So you're not actually acting like a 10-year-old when you're like in your 20s. There absolutely is a special accommodation for people who can't get along with coworkers. It's called find another job. She looks like a third grader's arts and craft project. Let's take a look. Yeah. The bee neck thing. Bad move. Bad move. She's going to regret that. Right on the neck. That thing's going to start looking ugly. The coworker is probably MAGA. That's probably it. That's definitely enough, I think. Why? Just why? She would be an HR nightmare. I bet they have unemployment law called at will. You can be let go for any reason at any time. So why someone puts up with this, I don't know. She's a good example of how AI will help in the workplace. Uh-huh. Well, I guess then she can be a revolutionary poet or maybe just work in the cement factory. All these socialists, they think that they're going to have these lovely, lovely lives. They think they're going to like work on their own little farm in the morning and then maybe in the afternoon do some fishing. And then they're going to write revolutionary poetry. Some of them think they're just going to spend all their time writing revolutionary poetry. I don't know how many revolutionary poets they think society is going to need. The answer is going to be zero. Because once you have the communist revolution, you don't need any more revolutionaries. They're the first ones to go, right? Because you don't need them anymore. You've already had the revolution. Now the revolutionaries, they're just a problem because they know how to do that shit. They have to go. I don't think they realize that. They're not going to be writing poetry. The state isn't going to need them for revolutionary poetry. The state's going to need them in the cement factory. You're going to need them in the concrete factory. Because there's a new palace in the works for a dear leader, you know? Wouldn't want to be an enemy of the state. You wouldn't want to be a counter-revolutionary. All right. And I'm sure that they're all Marxists, by the way. I say that with full confidence. They are all fucking Marxists, all of them. If they've been to college, there's like depending on where, but there's a very high possibility that they're Marxists. Let's see, what else we got? So the Atlantic, James Lindsay says gold. The Atlantic, Ketanji Brown Jackson's role in white supremacy. She was a hero to them, but I guess that 9-0 verdict on the ballot thing for Trump, they've turned her into white supremacy. Now, too, it was Larry Elder was the blackface of white supremacy for the LA Times. And now her as well, I guess, for that 9-0 decision, Supreme Court decision. How the freshman justice sided with Trump. How the freshman justice sided with Trump and is poised to become the next biggest threat to democracy. Good Lord, these people are insane. It was so obviously unconstitutional keeping Trump off the ballot that even the far lefties, this is the woman who said that she didn't know what a woman was in the hearings leading up to her being becoming a justice, right? She said that she didn't, she wasn't a biologist. She said, how would I know? I'm not a biologist. Not exactly those words, but that's basically what she said. I'm not a biologist. So it was so unconstitutional keeping Trump off the ballot that even she had to say so. And all of the other lefties on there too. And in typical hyperbolic shrieking, they have to now call her, say that she has a role in white supremacy. They're not saying outright that she's a white supremacist, but you know, kind of, right? She's got a role in it. So saying that they can't just arbitrarily take Trump off the ballot in Colorado is white supremacy. Of course, what isn't these days? Let's go to the chat. I need to go back for a second. So there's the neck tattoo, the B neck tattoo. Air Rifle says, silly little girl with the B on her neck will probably feel like she needs to take legal action against the tattoo artist when she reaches 50. It definitely won't be a good look then. It definitely won't be. That thing is going to get real ugly looking. It's just, why would you do that? I don't know. It's a stupid looking B. Like, you can't really ignore that. You could get a smaller one on your ass, right? But on your neck, like, get it on your shoulder or something where it's not, everybody's not going to see it all the time. That's quite a step. That's quite a step to say, I don't care that I look like an idiot. I don't care. I'm going to have this dumb B thing, this huge B thing on my neck. And that's just the way it is because I'm stupid. Because white supremacy, because systemic racism, that's why. Good Lord. Because take control of the means of production, that's why. That's why I have this bee on my neck. Anyway, I think it's dumb. I think it's really stupid. Oh, no. You know what? We got busted. This image is fake. Such an article does not exist. Okay. This is the problem, though. Okay, we got suckered in. This is the problem, though. Talk about it all the time. It's like the left is trying to kill satire and parody. You can't tell the difference anymore. Like, 5 years ago, this immediately we would have said, that's not real, right? But you can't tell. This sort of stuff comes out, seriously, all the time. You just can't tell. Like the Larry Elder is the blackface of white supremacy. That was a real LA Times headline. When Larry Elder was challenging Gavin Newsom in the recall. That was real. If that's real, why would we think that this is not real? Why would we doubt this? It's just as ridiculous. It's the same level of ridiculous, is it not? I mean, you know, the Atlantic, these are the people that think like sex changes for kids is a good idea. I mean, things as insane as that. You know, that they don't know what a woman is, right? It's not surprising that you get suckered in for something because this is actually normal far left opinion now. It's not even that surprising. Let's see. And Wokeness says it's nearly impossible to find even a single stock photo of a non-white shoplifter on Google. Yeah. And this is before, you know, Gemini AI, Google's AI. This is just, it's been like this for ages now. And, you know, they said they made a mistake, you know, Google with their AI. They made a mistake when it was, people asked for a picture of like the founding fathers and it didn't look like the founding fathers or Vikings. It doesn't look like Vikings, you know. They didn't actually do anything about it until it started spitting out black Nazis, you know, like Asian Nazis. I don't believe for a second that was a mistake. That was exactly what they were doing in their bubble world. It all made perfect sense. That's the best outcome. Well, they didn't like the black Nazi thing, right? The rest of it, though, they're totally fine with it. They were totally fine with utter total historical inaccuracy as long as it conformed to their ideas on diversity. You know, so Google's been like that. We all know that. We all know Google's been like this forever, right? Not a surprise. The truth, sometimes the truth is damaging. Didn't you know that? That's malinformation. You know what that is? That's information that's true, but it's damaging, though. It's hurtful. Majority of Canadians not even considering voting for the Liberals. I made a video about this earlier this week. You can watch that, subscribe, and then you can watch that. Well, you can watch it even without subscribing, but you really should subscribe, though. That just makes a lot more sense to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. So here's something interesting. CNBC co-host Joe Kernan shreds Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg after he tries gaslighting the American people once again on the Biden border crisis. This entire administration is a joke. So he got in as Secretary of Transportation. Then he immediately took like a year off for like paternity because they like bought like a baby of like a surrogate. And then didn't he have like that weird breastfeeding thing on? Like the weird, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. Look, and he immediately took like a year off for like paternity, and we really haven't seen much of him. But let's see how this goes down.
Listen, That didn't come until it became clear it was going to be a major campaign issue. And only then did the Biden administration get interested in it. And every time I hear those
hold on, let's be clear here,
let me finish first. But every time we hear those talking points that suddenly it was Republicans who ruined the border, that's why people get so frustrated. We know what President Biden said about inviting people in. We know that he got rid of all the things that were keeping the border closed that President Trump had put in. We know that he got rid of all those. So when you say it's not his fault,
that's literally not true. It's literally not true that he got rid of the veterans. It's true he got rid of family separation.
Did you see 7.2 million people come in during the Trump administration? It was a trickle.
He got rid of the policy to tear children out of the arms of their parents. That's true. But it is not.
Oh, does he mean the policy to make sure that they were actually the children of the parents, that the parents were actually the kids' parents and not just like human traffickers selling them to do horrible things? Selling them to people to do horrible things? Are you sure that's not what it was? Because it seems like that would be absolutely the fucking sane thing to do to protect children. Like, are these actually the parents? Has this kid been kidnapped? What exactly is going on here? That would be the same thing, the sane thing to do, the humane thing to do. Any sane, reasonable person with a conscience would want to make sure, right? Any sane person. But these people, like this guy, they are psychopaths, I think, because it's not that difficult of a concept, right? It doesn't take long to play it out. You know, what are the possibilities here? You've got all these people crossing the border. You've got kids crossing the border. It's not difficult. You know about the cartels. You know that there are awful things that happen to children. There are terrible people out there, right? It's not that hard to play it all out in your head. Is he not intelligent enough to do that? Or is he just a psychopath that will say fucking anything, no matter how shameful, no matter how shameless? I mean, I leave that up to you. I think I know the answer, though.
True. Some of the other things that have been suggested. Let's be clear. Bipartisan
part of the problem with why there's a disconnect.
Taken place in 2015, 2006. I mean, literally since.
Do you see his face at the end there? The interviewer? He's just like, oh, shut up.
True. Some of the other things that have been suggested. Let's be clear. Bipartisan
part of the problem with why there's a disconnect.
Taken place in 2015, 2006. I mean, literally since.
It's just obvious lying. We know Biden did undo all of Trump's policies on day one. Day one, he did it. He said he was going to do it. He said it in the Democratic debates. He said it in the primary. He said he was going to do it. Like, these people like this guy, they're psychopaths. They have absolutely no shame, no soul. Which is, I guess, why he's in his position in the first place, I guess. I don't know. I mean, not everybody in government, obviously, is evil, but it seems like the leftists are. I mean, they have no principles whatsoever. Just so... And I know there's lots of conservatives, too, that are liars and awful, but it seems to be weighted heavily towards the left now. Because it is kind of it is a core part of their ideology. It does appear. Double think. You know, no objective reality. It's just reality is just whatever is convenient for you in the moment, whatever is politically expedient for you, whatever will bring you power. That's what the truth is. And it can change in 2 seconds if that's more advantageous. It really is maddening. I mean, I see this and I just see late stage empire. I just see the fall of Western civilization. I see the coming of something awful and dangerous. You know, it's like entropy. You know, think a filing cabinet. It can take you can spend a month organizing a filing cabinet. And then in 10 seconds, you can just throw it all out on the floor and it's all just trash. It's hard to build things. It's easy to destroy them. And this modern regime of merit is white supremacy, apparently. You know, objective reality is white supremacy somehow. Doesn't make any sense, but okay. You know, the being on time, a concept of time, being on time. That's apparently white supremacy. That's in all of the like critical race theory literature. Like punctuality is white supremacy. That comes a big shock to the rest of the world. That's big news for the rest of the world. Because guess what? Everywhere in the fucking world, people are expected to do things on time. Like, what's his name? Ibram X. Kendi. I bet that when he's sitting in a restaurant and he hasn't gotten a menu for half an hour, I bet you he starts internalizing some of that white supremacy real quick, right? All these people, when they need something and they're not getting it, they probably internalize that white supremacy real quick, right? Because it's just the way the world works everywhere. Anyway, well, how did I get on that rant in the first place? I don't know. I can't remember. I don't have enough brain cells left. Anyway, this guy's awful. What an awful human being. All right. This is actually quite good. So this is the most brilliant refutation of mass immigration you will ever see, explained with gumballs. This is Roy Beck of Numbers USA, but it's highly relevant here in Canada. So this is a Canadian account. We need to shut down this Ponzi scheme. Yes, anybody who's watching in the States right now may not be aware that we have the highest immigration per capita in the world right now under Justin Trudeau. And it is suffocating our country. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for people who've always been here. It's bad for, people who've immigrated here in the last 10 years. It's bad for the people that are showing up every single day because Canada's falling apart. It's not a wealthy country anymore. It sucks. The benefits that people think they're going to get, like the great healthcare, that doesn't exist anymore. That's just a memory now. It is incredibly expensive to live. There's a major housing crisis. It sucks. Last I checked, it was like 30% of people who were moving here were leaving before they'd been here for 5 years. I think I saw that last year. And there's been news stories recently about how immigrants are fleeing the country because it sucks, right? So this is obviously the same everywhere, right? This mass immigration problem that's being forced on Western societies, whether it's in the UK or the United States or Canada. I think in Australia, they have the same problem, the Anglosphere, but all throughout Europe too. This is a problem everywhere. Almost seems like it's coordinated, doesn't it? Because it's everywhere and nobody wants it, and yet it keeps happening. But anyway, let's hear this guy talk about
the impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries, not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
Well, the reason that that that's not going to happen is because it makes too much sense. We had Trudeau just a couple weeks ago in an interview talking about his main job was to make sure that Canadians understood how great mass immigration is for Canada. Right? Like, he's still saying that. He's down 20 points in the polls, by the way. He's still saying that. Okay, it's obviously a lie. We've been hearing this for decades, and it has not. Our economies have not gotten better. Our society hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse. It's gotten worse because it's supply and demand. There's too much demand, and there's not enough supply. It can't grow fast enough. Canada's in a population trap. We can't develop our way out of this. There's too many people coming. Too many. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for the people coming. It's bad for the people that are already here. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a Trudeau Ponzi scheme. To essentially, what's happening is that they're convincing people to bring their life savings to Canada because they're under the mistaken impression that it's a place of opportunity and freedom and great social services. And that's just not true anymore. That's a lie. So they come here, they find the place is unlivable. It's way too expensive. They can't work enough hours to make the whole thing make sense. And they're miserable. But this is Trudeau's economic plan, to get people to bring their life savings here and basically waste it all. Waste it on a hopeless dream, a dream that will never happen. Steal their dream from them. That's what it is. And I think that's evil. I think Trudeau deserves to be hated for that. And I think that he is. Anyway, we should move on. I thought this was a parody of the Liberals when I saw it, but nope. This is their official account and their plan from Brian Lilley. Official tweet from the Liberal Party. Let's see. Far-right American. Crossed out Pierre Poilievre's priorities. This is apparently their plan. They fucked up everything in the country, the economy, everything. So their plan now is just to call Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, who's 20 points up in the poll. Their plan is to just call him a far-right American. But he's not, he's Canadian. Their plan is to say that he's MAGA. He's MAGA. That's what they're saying now. Every 3 seconds they're going, oh, he's a MAGA, far-right American-style politics. I tell you, MAGA is starting to sound better and better to a lot of Canadians. Pierre Poilievre, I will say he's similar to Trump in that they're both moderate. They're both quite moderate, but moderate is such a difference from the far left policies that are being implemented now, that have been implemented over the last 9 years by Justin Trudeau and his Liberal Party, that to them it seems extreme. It's so the middle, just moderate, sane policies. So really what we're dealing with now is just crazy versus sane, right? That's really what politics has come down to now. It's not even left-right anymore. It's just fucking loony versus normal insane. And normal insane is so far away from where Trudeau is right now that they actually think that that's far right. No. You've been running to the left as fast as you can. You got in a jet plane and went as far left as you could. So anyway, their plan is to, honestly, this is actually their plan, is to do shit like this. Far-right American. Crossed out Pierre Poilievre's priorities. Okay, that's not going to work. The public is not as stupid as you are. That's the problem. Deny climate change. Canada can do absolutely fucking nothing to global climate. Okay? We cannot. We're a drop in the bucket. Canada could cease to exist tomorrow, and it would make no difference. It wouldn't change the global climate one little bit. Not even a tiny little bit. You know, that 1 or 2% of Canada's contribution to global emissions will be taken up by the Chinese over the next weekend, probably anyway, as they continue to build coal plants. There's absolutely nothing we can do. We're ruled by this bizarre fantasy that somehow Canada is going to change Canada's going to save the world by not using plastic straws. Canada's going to save the world by not using having plastic bags at grocery stores. Canada's going to save the world with electric cars that don't work in Canadian winters half the time. Canada is not saving anybody. Canada right now cannot save itself. Never mind change the global fucking climate. It's utterly absurd. It's maddening. Just these weird, we're ruled by these bizarre fantasies. Cut services to cut taxes for the wealthy. I don't know. I mean, I'm just for tax cuts just across the board, frankly. Let's see. I mean, eventually, some services are going to have to be cut because the liberals have been on this insane spending spree that have like quadrupled our national debt in like a couple of years. It's insane. We simply can't afford to, they just keep promising more free shit to try and buy votes that we can't afford. I mean, it's all has to be paid for by printing money. It all has to be paid for by borrowing. And that all has to be paid back. It's all just a scam. Got the middle class. That's exactly what you guys have done. That's exactly what the liberals have done. They always accuse you of doing what they're doing. Weaken gun control. Yeah, okay, so I don't think that the conservatives want to take away rifles from like hunters and like people who live out in rural communities. Weaken gun control. So the liberals have passed all their gun control bills, like banning handguns. Guess what? Gun crime is up. Huh. I guess it wasn't those legal gun owners after all. It's just a fucking mountain of bullshit from these people. Just lies. They've got nothing. Liberals have destroyed Canada. Like, it's unbelievable how quickly Canada has degraded under Trudeau. I mean, he's done it in under a decade. He's bringing Canada to its knees in under a decade. Because we forgot that we needed adults running the country instead of, drama teachers and part-time snowboard instructors who have, I'll give him credit. He's got great hair, right? Great hair. Anyway, what is this? I don't think I've watched this. Oh, wait a second. Yes, I have social anxiety, but you know what else I have? Trouble concentrating on what she's saying. Why would that be? Did you notice anything in this? Okay, we're going to watch this. We got to watch this.
Or, whatever. If you have social anxiety and you're staying home because you're too overwhelmed about judgment or what might happen or whatever. If you have social anxiety and you're staying home because you're...
Has anybody noticed what's distracting about this? Has anybody noticed that? Tell me in the comments if you've noticed what is distracting. What is distracting about what she's saying? Have you noticed anything? Anything at all distracting? So when they invented the term camel toe, this is what they invented it for. Moments exactly like this precise moment, as a matter of fact. That is, well, I mean, it's very noticeable. I'm just going to say that. I wonder if anybody she asked anybody, how do these pants look on me? How do these pants look on me? How's my ass look? Your ass looks great. Your ass does. Your ass looks good. But the camel toe, I just got to say it. I really hope she doesn't go out in public like that. Honestly, it's a bit much. I wonder if the internet has anything to say. We should find out. And I hope it's kind. We need to talk about the camel in the room. Let's see. Looks like Homer's mouth. Does look exactly like that, actually. In the future, these pants will provide real-time gynecological data directly to your smartwatch. That's a good one. Overkill on the lip filler. This is not normal. Absolutely not normal. I don't know what else there is to say. Let's take another look just for reference. You'd think a friend would mention something. You'd think a friend would mention something. Like, your pussy looks huge in those pants. How do these pants look on me? Do they make my look... Do they make my pussy look fat? A little, just a little bit. These are good times. That camel toe looks like he can bench 300. Yep, that's true. Let's see. That's what day it is. Yeah. This segment's working out well. Oh, dear. There it is. Yep. Air Rifle says nothing to see here. Camel balls. What the hell is that? Bubblegum camel balls? I've never seen that before. It's a crazy thing. All right, let's keep going. That's enough of that. It was childish. Very childish of us. All right. Let's see what we've got next. We're 3 hours now. All right. Like this one, Tyler Zed. In 1920, we took children out of the coal mines. In 2020, the most popular video game on the market is Minecraft. The children yearn for the mines. They certainly do. I mean, why are they so into Minecraft? It's time to get them back in the mines again. You know, that'll keep them thinking about all their different genders anyway. I think it'd be good for them. It's better than TikTok or just like public school or like pretty much any school these days, I think, actually. They probably send drag queens down there to dance for them in the mines, you know? God damn it. A little something to brighten your day from Cat Canada. So, oh, that looks like, well, is that Greta Thunberg or is that Justin Trudeau? Let's take a look.
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. And yet, I'm one of the lucky ones. How dare you?
We genuinely despise Trudeau here. He's just so awful. That's a good one. Here's something very interesting and just not a good sign for Western civilization. Certainly not a good sign for England.
In Russia last year, 400 people were arrested for things that they said on social media. 400 people in Russia. Obviously, this country is very different. How many people do you think were arrested in Britain for things they said on social media last year?
Go on.
Take a guess.
I have no idea.
3,300.
Really?
arrested for what they'd said on social media.
Yeah.
What sort of things get you
Well,
arrested?
one example I give in my show is there was a young woman from Liverpool called Chelsea Russell, and people can look this up. Her friend was killed in a car crash, a 19-year-old woman, and she posted the lyrics of his favorite song on her Instagram. And there was a rap song, so the lyrics contained several instances of the N-word. She was arrested, prosecuted, found guilty, given 500 hours of community service and a fine, tagged, and for a year she was under 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. curfew.
My goodness.
In Britain.
In Britain.
In 2018. In Russia last year, 400 people were.
So this was actually recorded in I think about a year ago. So it's a little bit old, but I don't think much has changed since then. But I mean, it's like, it's in England. I mean, it feels like the beginning of the end there, doesn't it? Right? That's a level of authoritarianism that's crazy. I mean, Trudeau was trying to bring in something just as awful, maybe even worse in Canada. Bill C-63. Subscribe to my channel, and then you'll find the videos that I made on that. I made a few videos on Bill C-63, totally dystopian nightmare bills that only a lunatic, authoritarian, wannabe dictator would put out, which is very normal for because it's Justin Trudeau, right? Of course. But it's disturbing. How is that not disturbing? Hearing that. Again, it feels like the beginning of the end, or maybe even worse than that. You know, it's alternate reality stuff. It should feel like an alternate reality when you see stuff like this. I mean, how is it possible? How is it possible in England? I don't know. I'm not black-pilled. I'm white-pilled. I think things can be turned around. Maybe just not in the UK. I don't know. I certainly hope so. It's a tragedy. It's a slow-motion tragedy what's happening there, you know? Yeah, anyway, let's keep going. Let's see. Let's hear Jordan Peterson talking about how dystopian Canada is.
Dr. Peterson, I want you to talk about the debanking issue we saw so much of, and how that was, particularly, I guess, with the truckers, and how that's, because I see it coming. I see it coming here, and it frightens me. I want you to talk about what took place in Canada, and if it in any way impacted you.
Well, there was essentially a working class protest against the extensive length of the COVID lockdowns. And one consequence of that was that Canadians who participated, even by donating to the protest and even by donating small amounts to the protest, had their bank accounts seized in consequence of a collusion between the banks and the government that was extrajudicial, that was recently deemed unconstitutional, despite the fact that we don't have strong First Amendment claims. So this happened. The government is currently maneuvering in Canada to make the possibility of such collusion a certainty across multiple actual and potential domains of so-called harm, particularly in relationship to government-defined hate. Yes, this is absolutely coming, and it's facilitated by the kinds of advancements in technology that we talked about today.
Yeah.
I make videos on this constantly. I'm making videos all week about this sort of stuff. And is this real? Like, is this real? This isn't like some dystopian novel. Like, this stuff is all real. It's actually happening. These are the people that we've surrendered our countries to. Somehow, while everybody was asleep, they just took over. You know, I think Canada had been used to, and I think this is similar across the West, that they were used to getting at least reasonable leadership, whether it was the Liberal Party in Canada or the Conservatives. There was a lot of overlap between the two. And the leaders, I mean, you'd quibble about certain things, those things you like. Some issues bigger than others, but you never felt that they were actually totally incompetent or totally insane or just like out and out ideologues, like extremists, right? So Trudeau, owing to his name and to his fantastic hair, just snuck in. And people thought, well, Canada's, can't do anything that bad. That doesn't happen in Canada. Canadian prime ministers don't do stuff that's actually completely insane. Canadian prime ministers don't actually try and destroy the country. We may differ on certain things, but they're not actually trying to just wreck the country. Like, they do care about the welfare of Canadians, right? So Trudeau snuck in. People liked his hair. And they liked his last name. And he got in. And everybody just kept sleeping. As things got worse and worse in the country, as it became more and more obvious that he was incompetent, people just kept kind of going with it. And now it would be, if the election were tomorrow, it would be a historic win for the Conservative Party in Canada. But the problem is, we've got to wait until, it looks like we're going to have to wait until late 2025 to get rid of him. So he's got all that time to continue doing his insanity, he's got all that time to continue fucking up the country. And it's awful, and it's tragic. As I said just a couple of weeks ago, he was telling us about how in an interview that his main job was to convince Canadians how great all the mass immigration actually is. His job was to convince us that, the 18-hour ER waits were not a problem. Or not being able to afford your rent or buy food, that wasn't a problem. No, it's a benefit. This is all a benefit. They've been lying about this for decades. And now everybody's finally reached that line where it's really affecting their lives negatively. They've been lying to us about how we have to have all of this immigration. Of course, it's been ramped up. It's been quadrupled under Trudeau over the last few years, right? We've had high levels of immigration for a long time, but not like Trudeau. Trudeau, it's been true mass immigration. And they've been lying to us about it, about how we need this, or else the economy is going to fall apart, or our standard of living is going to fall apart. And guess what? It was all a complete fucking lie, because everything has just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. There is nobody who wouldn't like to go back 20 years. And Trudeau is still lying and telling us that it's his job to convince us that things are better now. And they're going to keep getting better. What he's doing is going to keep working, even though we all know it's an utter and total lie, and it's wrecking the country. And it's surreal to me. How did we get here? It's crazy. Again, I'm not black-pilled, but I think the situation can be rectified, at least to some extent. The West will never be quite the same again. I think that's fair to say about all of the Anglosphere, at least. But I don't think it's all a lost cause. I'm still white-pilled. But anyway, that was a pretty good rant, I think. You guys are with me on that. Oh, wait a second. Going back to the chat here. Oh, dear. We've got to go back. Hold on. Let's see. We've got to go back to this one again. Air rifles. Air rifles did it again. Oh, dear. I'm not sure I can even read this, but better say it. So we're back at the image of the lady with the gigantic camel toe. Air rifle says this. It says, oh, dear. It is a tragedy. Hold on. Always somewhere to park a bike. If you're stuck for somewhere, it will never fall over. Oh, dear. Good Lord, you had to go there, but I approve. Let's get some more applause. All right, let's keep going. All right, I think we're going here. No, we've already been there. We'll go there. Air Rifle says it's a tragedy what they're doing to us in the UK. It is funny how people from the outside of the UK can't see it or can see it, yet our government can't. Well, I mean, I follow UK politics, not as closely as I follow, obviously, as Canadian politics, but I do follow it, and I feel so sad. I feel so terrible for the UK Conservatives who've had this party for like 14 years, and they've just utterly betrayed the people that voted for them. I mean, now, if I have this correct, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but right now, I mean, they have record immigration now. Record immigration. And that I think was the main issue of Brexit, was they want to control over their own borders. And the Conservatives have not just done Labor's job for them, they've excelled, they've outdone them. I don't think Labor would have brought as many people. I mean, keep in mind, the UK, they've got massive housing crisis there too, all the other problems, all the other attendant problems with bringing too many people in with a population trap, where the economy just simply gets overwhelmed, and there's no chance of improving standards of living unless you stop, and then it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time to develop to the point where you can actually increase standards of living again. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, it's a nightmare. That's my fear. That's my fear in here with them, the Conservative Party here, that it just turns into, there's a lot of great words said on the campaign trail, and then it turns into Trudeau light, at best. Yeah, that frightens me. It's really a cautionary story. So anyway, we feel for you. I feel for you, Air Rifles. We do. This man is a transgender Muslim adult baby. Would he be welcomed in Gaza? Well, I think he'd immediately be welcomed to some rooftops. I think. And it would be a short welcome, because then he'd be welcomed back down to the street again. I think that's just the way they do it over there. Anyway, they're not very big, as far as I understand it. In places like Gaza or anywhere in the Middle East, they're not huge on transgender Muslim adult babies. Especially like Westerners who decide that they are transgender Muslim adult babies. I don't think it's a big thing there. Maybe on Gaza TikTok, but I kind of feel like no. I don't think they're confused about it. Should we watch some of this? Maybe we will.
Hi everyone. Elsa Bear says hi. I guess I just wanted to do a slightly awkward conversation, and it's gonna be so. I got on. Well, I follow a lot of other sisters on TikTok, and a lot of them be like, "Oh, well, what happens if a transgender person goes in the restroom when a woman's trying to fix her job?" And I'm sitting here like, okay, well, I'm a transgender woman who wears a job. What happens if I need to fix my job? Am I supposed to go in, where
some people just really aren't meant to reproduce. So, nature just says, nah, not this one. Not this one. All right. Let's see. Canadian doctors admit COVID booster shot paralyzed woman offer to euthanize her to make up for it. So, yeah, we keep hearing about this in Canada. There's like vets, like military vets that there was one who wanted like a wheelchair ramp, and instead they offered her MAID, which is medical assistance in dying. There was like several veterans who were they had concerns, not that they didn't want to die, just the government decided that our healthcare system decided that it'd probably be better if they die. They suggested, well, we could just kill you. You want a chairlift, but Sure you don't want to die? Because we can do that. We can do that this afternoon. Do you have time this afternoon? They're expanding that medical assistance in dying program to mentally ill as well, by the way. So, you know, it all feels a lot like eugenics to me. You know, the people that are really worried about all those the fascists and stuff seem to have some of the same ideas. Like in terms of like mentally ill, it's kind of like exactly like what Hitler did, right? I don't know. I don't see how this gets lost on people. I don't see how this goes over people's heads. The second that you hear, well, you know, maybe what we'll do for the mentally ill is kill them. You know, the second you hear that, I don't know. It gives me pause for thought. And I go, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe that's a terrible idea. Maybe that's totally inhuman. Maybe you guys aren't like the empathy party after all. Maybe you're evil. You know, all those people that are that have been given free drugs from the government, literally meth and like cocaine and heroin. You know, I think that's the end point the government has for them. Well, they'll give them these drugs for a while and they can say that they're doing harm reduction or some other total idiots, some other lunacy, and then just kill them. Anyway, I think we're getting to the end here. 3 hours, 20 minutes. But maybe we'll see if there's something else. I can't think of a better platform than abolishing police and prisons. Take a listen to this brilliant plan. Okay. I'm sure this is very good.
My platform abolishes police and prisons. We switch to a home type system where you have someone at a home, because my platform also gives everybody guaranteed housing. When it comes to preserving police and prisons, we think that it's time to stop dehumanizing Americans. Anyone who has questions about my policy can read it at jasminesherman.com or have it read to them. However, it is time to switch to a house arrest system with a community task force. Defunding and abolishing the police is our first step. There's no reason for a stranger who doesn't live in your zip code to be patrolling your neighborhoods. It makes more sense for us to start community task force and pay the individual within the community to watch their own neighborhoods, to watch their own children. And that helps to stimulate the economy and create jobs and keeps people at home where they want to be.
Thank you. Jill?
Indeed, we are indeed an over.
So
My platform
that's totally crazy. Let's hear that again.
My platform abolishes police and prisons. We switch to a home type system where you have someone at a home, because my platform also gives.
Sorry, Kami. People don't want to be terrorized by violent criminals. Not gonna work. Why are they still spouting this nonsense? Like, you know, it was in vogue for a little while, and then everybody went, "Oh, we hate being terrorized by violent criminals, so let's have police again." You know, they're still suffering from it in lots of places. I think, like in New York, where like so many cops quit, and they haven't been able to replace them because of their insane laws. Now they've actually got National Guard in the subways, which is incredible, isn't it? They create the problem, and instead of solving it, saying like, well, the other thing before that we were doing that, you know, like we weren't just letting like people commit crimes and then just letting them go and just letting them do that over and over again every day. That thing where we weren't letting them do that. Well, that's not progressive. So let's just put military in the subways. For one thing, it's not going to work anyway. It's not going to stop people from, because they have an epidemic of people being pushed onto the tracks by crazy people. And also too, they're just going to rob people. They're going to commit crimes when people leave the subway station anyway. So, I mean, the whole thing is fucking retarded. Maybe just go back and fix the thing you broke in the first place. It's like, look, most of my life, I considered myself a liberal. I hated the war on drugs and all of that. You know, I'm having to reconsider that now that I've seen what the alternative is, which is just a order of magnitude greater death and tragedy for people and for families, not to mention all of the attendant crime around it, I'm kind of thinking, well, like that was at least 10 times less of all that when we were doing this terrible thing called the war on drugs. Like maybe we should go back to that and then maybe kind of rework it from there. Because the current thing is a terrible idea that obviously doesn't work, right? And at every step of the way where it has failed and things have gotten worse, the solution has been, well, it wasn't far left enough. So we need to go more extreme far left now. Now, to the point of literally just like, let's just give people free meth. Literally. That's their solution. That was their brilliant plan. Let's see, we've got an order of magnitude worse everything, okay, from our far left plans. And we just keep going more far left as it fails. Anybody got any ideas? Let's give everybody free meth. That'll fix it. That'll fix the drug addiction problem. That'll fix the overdose problem. So anyway, I'm thinking that we're doing things wrong. I'm thinking maybe we should go back to the way things were and then rework it from there. Like maybe just like have less, like way less people die and way less damage to our society in every single way. And then reassess from there. Because we know what we're doing now isn't working. It's just obviously not. I mean, what is of course they won't do that. Like Trudeau, he's just looking for the next far left extremist thing. I mean, what is more extreme far left than literally giving people meth? I'm not sure. Is it forcing people to like take drugs? Is that the furthest left wing thing that's going to save us all? Well, it's got to fix that problem. I don't know. I mean, there's nothing too crazy. There's nothing too crazy for them. Let's see. Air Rifle said, have to leave you now. I really enjoy what you do. So refreshing to have a voice of reason these days. Thank you. Well, thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll see you next Friday. Might do a show on Sunday. I'm not sure. If I do, it'll be like around 6-ish. I was supposed to last Sunday. I couldn't. I'm hoping I can this Sunday. But otherwise, hope to see you again. Thanks very much. All right. So the rants just keep on coming. I think it makes everybody happy. Let's see. From James Lindsay again. Queer theory is a Marxist eugenics program. Yeah, I believe that it is. It seems to be the intention to just get people to be the end of their genetic line. I mean, certainly if you're chemically or surgically castrating people, that's going to be that, right? You're not going to be, leaving any little zems behind. And just generally reducing the likelihood of ever reproducing, and even if you don't do that, because who's going to want to fuck you? So, there's that. I don't know what you guys think about it. Let's see. Dr. Jebra Fauché. Are you an inclusive human who says pregnant person? Or are you an extremist? Are you an extremist who insists on saying pregnant woman? That's exactly the sort of thing an extremist would say.
Love to speak pregnant, and I want to talk about this comment. It's a comment that I've gotten every single time that I talk about being pro-choice. Pregnant person, you mean mother. Actually, no, I don't. I mean pregnant person. As someone who is currently pregnant, I do not feel like a mother. I feel like a person who is pregnant, a pregnant person. I am not yet a mother. I will be a mother. I am excited to become a mother, but currently I'm just a person who is pregnant. Now, the other response I get anytime I use the phrase pregnant person instead of woman or mother is this one. You mean woman. No, I don't. I mean pregnant person. This is a classic right-wing talking point by people who are transphobic. They love to say shit like, but only women can get pregnant biologically, which just...
Okay, but they love to say that because it's true, right? That's the whole thing. They love to say it because it's true. And by the way, isn't pregnant person demeaning? Don't you find that demeaning? Why don't you find that demeaning? Doesn't it just reduce you to some like faceless labor unit? Pregnant person? Is that how you see yourself? As just like a unit of pregnancy? You know, is it dehumanizing? It feels kind of dehumanizing to me. But anyway, let's keep going.
Just for the record, is not true. First of all, trans men can get pregnant. So can non-binary people, neither of whom are women.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Let's watch that again.
Right-wing talking point by people who are transphobic. They love to say shit like, but only women can get pregnant biologically, which, just for the record, is not true. First of all, trans men can get pregnant. So can non-binary people, neither of whom are women. Even if you're the most...
Just saying that they're not women, that just saying that they're not women is not evidence of anything. That doesn't prove anything, okay? Women can get pregnant because they have the reproductive organs that allow for that. Only women have those. Saying that, no, well, some men have those because I say that. That doesn't mean anything. Like, there is, what's the words I'm looking for here? It's gibberish. You're asking us to believe in some metaphysical abstract notion, right? Essentially gender as the progressive soul, right? This metaphysical thing. And of course, this is all a religion, so gotta have a soul, right? So gender is the progressive soul, but that doesn't say anything about biology. That doesn't say anything about how we are a sexually dimorphic, sexually reproducing species. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if you cut your hair short and put on a jean jacket, okay? You're not James Dean, right? You're still a woman. That's just the way it is. Anyway, let's continue.
Transphobic piece of garbage, and you think that anyone assigned female at birth is a woman, despite what their current gender presentation might be, it's still factually incorrect to say that only women can get pregnant, because that's ignoring the entire intersex community, many of whom do not fall into the binary of man or woman, but can still get pregnant.
They always drag this out, this exception that proves the rule. You know, it's just, I'm sorry. That proves absolutely nothing. And if you can get pregnant, you're a woman, okay? A deformity doesn't change that.
The other thing I find so ridiculous about people who have a problem with the term pregnant person or birthing person, that the only reasonable way you can have a problem with that is that you don't actually believe that women are people. Because the term pregnant person encompasses anyone who can get pregnant, including women. Using more inclusive terminology to talk about pregnancy and birth does not take anything away from women. Unless, of course, you think that a woman isn't a person. The term pregnant person encompasses...
None of this makes any sense.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Pierre. I'm trying to understand, but I just can't. Because I think it's because it's gibberish. I think it's some of that commie gobbledygook. All right, let's see what the internet has to say about this. I bet there's some interesting things here. Charlie Shea identifies as an elf and hopefully does not procreate. I think she said that she was pregnant. I worry about the kids. Yeah, it's pretty goofy. Let's see. I'm an extremist. Women have wombs. Men do not. You see, that's just a fact is the thing. That's just irrefutable. Let's see. Let's see. Proud extremist and believer in biological reality. Yeah, it is. I mean, if it weren't so kind of maddening, it'd be fascinating that biological reality is considered extremism by these people, by these lunatics. I mean, just think about that. I mean, we really have gotten to a different place. This is the Cultural Revolution. This is the Maoist Cultural Revolution going on in the West. Where reality has now become extremism. Facts are extremism. It's astonishing. It's astonishing how this crept up on us while we're all asleep. Oh, it's just a bunch of crazy kids in the universities, they told us. Yeah, well, they got out of university. And now they're running institutions. All right, anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's getting late. I don't know how many more of these I got. Well, I think we're getting really close to the end. Let's see. What does this say? I just woke up from a switch and my boyfriend slept with my alter. So this person thinks that they have multiple personalities, which is actually not true. That's totally debunked. I think that's dissociative identity. What is it called? Dissociative identity, something or other. It's not real. So I just woke up from a switch and my boyfriend slept with my alter. I feel cheated on just because it's my body doesn't mean it's me. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know how to feel. He knew I wasn't me. I don't know how to act because I feel cheated on. Boy, oh boy. I think it's time for him to find a new girlfriend. One that is not pretending to be insane. Because I think most of this is just people pretending. It's just a thing. It's just something for identity. Maybe it's genuine mental illness, but it's not actually dissociative identity disorder. It's not that, because that's not real. I don't see how any of this helps society at all. Just creates a bunch of dysfunctional people who are really going to add nothing to society. They're just going to be a drain in every single way. But I guess this is how you get attention now in the modern age. Let's see, what do we got? Let's see. Apparently this guy's quite amusing. Let's take a look.
Good evening, cowards. Rick Hubbard, 97 Spruce Lane. Nice to see a bunch of fat, ugly women. What?
Excuse you.
What?
No.
I'm speaking. They're fat, ugly women is what they are. Let's talk about it.
We're not having that.
You know?
So this man is already a legend. I haven't actually watched this, so I don't know what else he's going to say, but let's take a look.
You have to buy.
That ain't free speech.
It's called free speech. Buy.
That's not free speech. That's insulting.
Buy. That's good. Shut up.
So it doesn't show us what else he said. And frankly, I don't care. That was enough. That man's a legend. I don't know what he was going to say or why he said it. I'm just glad that he did. All right. Oh, God, it's so depressing, all this stuff, what they're doing in the schools. I don't know if I even want to watch this here. Maybe we'll come back to it. What communists say they do, what they actually do. Yes, that's right. No, comrade, we don't need revolutionary poetry. Now back to the cement factory or up against the wall. So this looks like Eric Idle from Monty Python. Let's take a look here.
There once was a girl at the age of 3, told her mum, this is how I want to be. Her mum said, no, you're a boy, you know it's how it's meant to be. Soon may transition come to bring me blockers and hormones, mum. Why won't you listen to me? I want to be happy.
Okay, so this is indistinguishable from Eric Idle in Monty Python. I don't know if this is serious or not. Okay, let's keep going.
The girl grew up and her voice grew deep. Her mum saw her unhappiness creep. Her mum said, I know you're a girl, I'll support you all the way. Soon may transition come to bring me blockers and hormones, mum. At last I am the real me, and now I am happy. And now I am happy.
I think it's real, and this person should not be allowed around any children. This is some messed up shit, and I do think we should consider burning everything to the ground and salting the ashes. If this is truly what Western civilization turns into, fully, yeah, we might as well at that point. Newly appointed UN Women UK delegate, Martin Katie Neves, tasked with representing women on the UN Commission of the Status of Women. My good God, it's Monty Python become real.
And hormones, mum, why won't you listen to me? I want to be happy. The girl grew up and her voice grew deep.
Oh dear. So UN, the UN. Do we need the UN? I kind of feel like we don't need it. If this is what it's about, I kind of feel like we don't. Nothing what that happens with the UN seems to make any sense anyway. They put, like, a couple of years ago, they put Saudi Arabia on, like, the Women's Rights Council. How does that make any sense? I think we can just do without the UN from now on. Like, it's clearly not serious or sane in any way, right? If this is the sort of thing that it's responsible for. Oh my God, it's in my head now. There once was a troon who posted cringe with male baldness and a lady's fringe. He tapped the rhythm of his musical whinge with a great big blokey hands. You really come across some treasures on the internet in these comment sections. Let's see. Let's see. What do we got? All right. I think that's it. I mean, what do you even say? I mean, I get, if this is the future, then we might as well just burn it to the ground and salt the ashes. Because yeah. I don't think future generations are, if things keep going in this direction, future generations are not going to look back fondly on us at all. They're going to curse us. Why did you do this to us? You had such a good thing going, you know? Like, it looked like, in the 90s, maybe the 2000s, looked like, Star Wars, it was Star Trek, The New Generation, it was a sure thing, it was a lock. We're going off to this bright, beautiful new future. And then all of a sudden we decided to say, actually, let's make everything about identity and race. And let's get rid of merit, the thing that would actually create the beautiful utopian technological future that we've dreamed about in science fiction. Let's get rid of the thing let's get rid of the thing that's created, like, modern medicine, right? Like the scientific method. Not counting the jabs, by the way. Not counting that. But let's face it, we've got better medicine than caveman had, right? Let's get rid of the thing that's created all of the wonders that we enjoy. all of the comforts that we enjoy, right? Let's get rid of the thing that's created all of that. Let's decide that like every kid is born in the wrong body or something. Let's do stuff like that and like say that we don't need police anymore. You know, let's all just be terrorized by violent criminals. Let's do that. Let's become communists so that nothing will ever be innovated ever again. Let's go backwards. You know, at some point, I guess we decided that that's what we want. We want to just tear everything to the ground. Let's all go live in caves again. Three hours and 43 minutes in. I don't know where the hell I was going with that. Just that. Oh yeah, if this is the future. Yeah, I don't know how we got off track. We decided that all the things that are good and that have benefited mankind are bad, like capitalism, for instance. You know, you see, you see human per capita wealth up until the Industrial Revolution, and then it's basically a hockey stick that shoots straight up. People living today don't realize how difficult it was 100 years ago. How different their lives would have been 100 years ago. Never mind 200 years ago. 200 years ago, you were almost certainly living in just the kind of poverty you can't imagine today. Like a bum on the street can't imagine the kind of misery that just like 98% of the population of the world was living in. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the thing that's let's turn, global absolute poverty from like 97% of the population to like 10% or like 5% of the global population. Let's get rid of the thing that did that. Let's replace it with this terrible thing that got tens of millions of people killed everywhere it was tried. Well, I guess in Cuba, they didn't get tens of millions of people killed there just because there weren't enough people to kill there, I guess. Soviet Union and China should be enough warning for everybody. Never mind like North Korea and Cambodia. So let's replace the thing that's made everybody's lives just immeasurably better to the point where you can't imagine the kind of poverty almost everybody lived in not that long ago. Let's replace it with the thing that's terrible and impoverished people who could have benefited from capitalism, who could have had much, much better lives, and certainly not been starved to death, for instance. Let's replace it. Let's replace the good thing with the terrible thing for some reason. Because nobody knows anything. Nobody was taught anything in school. We were taught that the German guy was bad, and he was terrible. But you know who else was really bad? Stalin, Mao, Lenin, the communists, Pol Pot. They were all just as bad, just as evil. For some reason, it wasn't important to inform everybody about this in schools, right? I mean, never mind even like elementary schools, high schools, like universities. Professors have got them running around with fucking hammers and sickles patches on their jackets now. So I don't know what that's all about. All right. I think that's about it. It's late. I've been going for almost 4 hours. So I think that's the end of the, and I don't got any more rants left. I think you can tell I'm starting to wind down. All right. Thanks everybody. Subscribe to the channel. I put out tons of videos during the week. You can check those out. And, I hope to see everybody back. Thanks everybody who was in the chat, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.